Welcome to the future of horror podcasts. Hi there, this is Slashily Ever After, your new favorite all things horror podcast, talking about mostly movies, but so much more. All right, I'm your host, Runningman, full-time content creator on Twitch.tv, YouTube.com, TikTok.com, Instagram.com. All the .coms belong to me. Sorta, I'm kind of niche. This is my co-host and my beautiful fiance, Giza Brittaniza. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Brittany.
Brittany. G's Brittany.
G's Brittany's.
Fantastic. She moderates the Twitch channel. She sends me TikToks every day. I'd be lost without her. We're here to talk about horror movies today. All right, so this is episode 0. We're just getting started. Thank you for joining us. We have a lot to work on. We have a lot to improve but for now, we've got a beautiful logo. I got a beautiful girl. We got a beautiful list of movies we watched. Let's get right into it. We're going to talk today about our 2024 watch list. These are all horror movies that released last year, 2024. We're going to have just a short synopsis and we're going to talk about it. We're going to try and make it brief because we watched a lot of movies last year, didn't we?
The thing is with horror movies, we only watched like maybe half of what was released last year. So even with that, this is still gonna be a long conversation.
Real. I feel like it's gonna be hours. But so you're gonna see up there, if you look in your the top right, if you're watching on video. If you're audio only, we'll try our best to talk you through it. But the first movie, so we decided, she's very, very organized. I really appreciate that. We're going in order of release in 2024. So this is movies we saw. If you're like, hey, there's something missing from the list, we probably missed it. We tried to hit the important ones. For some reason, we never made it into Lisa Frankenstein. That's one I really wanted to see. There's like an inside joke between the two of us about it. So go ahead.
For some reason, it just does not appeal to me. But I bet whenever we do eventually watch it, it'll probably end up being my favorite. But we sadly did not watch Lisa Frankenstein. Yeah.
So going over the list this morning, I think that was the only movie I saw on the list that I saw, like, because I'm pretty plugged into like horror Twitter. I think it was the only movie that I saw like a lot of conversation about, a lot of hype for, that we didn't make it through. So anyway, so we're going to start with Night Swim. Take it away, geez, what you need to do.
Yeah, so Night Swim was very, very easy thing. It's called family moves into a new house, unaware that a dark secret from the house is past will unleash a malevolent force in the backyard pool. It was released in January. I think it was actually the first movie that was released that we watched. January 5th, 2024.
Damn, so right at the beginning of 2024.
Right at the beginning of the year.
And we started off with a banger, a murderous swimming pool, right? Like, talk about a concept. But right. I remember when I first saw a trailer for this movie, I was like super hyped because I thought it would look ridiculous. And the immediate reaction from horror Twitter was like, ugh, stinker, bomb. But was this a Blumhouse movie?
Well, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Blumhouse, right?
I can look.
It doesn't say on IMDb?
It will, but I have to find that.
No, I'm making it hard on it. Let's go.
Yeah. Fun fact though, while I'm looking for this, it's actually a remake of a movie.
So this was actually
also
done before.
called.
This was done before.
It was. The synopsis is really funny. I don't see Blumhouse on here.
If I had a nickel for
Oh, I lied. It is. It's the second one listed.
Hey, yo.
Blumhouse.
Okay, sick. So Night Swim. Babes, tell me, what do we think of Night Swim?
Well, I am a little partial to Night Swim because a big bulk of it is they end up buying this house. The father, I think he's like a baseball player or something.
Yeah, he's in like
some kind of sport, and
baseball injury or
has
whatever.
A baseball injury or a recurring illness. I can't remember because it's been like a year since we watched it. But he uses the pool for therapy, like physical therapy, which is what I do. I'm a physical therapist assistant, so I like that right off the bat.
That's crazy.
In terms of the movie, I think it was fine. I think I would like give it a solid like middle ground rating.
Yeah,
like a 5 or a 6 out of 10.
I would probably somewhere in that 5 or 6 out of 10. Tier wise, if you're looking at 2024 as a year of horror, though, like 5 out of 10 is probably not going to pull this one out of D tier for me. Like I really did think it was kind of forgettable.
Out of D tier,
yeah.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe you're.
I don't know if I'll.
Did we just break something?
Oh, it was my chat.
No, you're fine. Unless you need it. No, all right, yeah, go get it. All right.
It's right here.
Episode 0, folks. No, you're good. Yeah, so for me, I would argue either D or C tier because again, it's a 5 out of 10. My concern is that if we go too easy early in the list, we're gonna get to movies that it's gonna basically just kind of top heavy the list. Like we'll need some stuff to go in D tier.
Oh, there's gonna be some stuff in D tier.
That's fair, but
I don't think it was a bad movie. Like,
do you think it was a good movie?
I think it was a fine movie.
Would you watch
I don't
it
think
again?
it's a D. I would. I wouldn't. I don't think it's a D tier. I would say C. It could be like bottom C, but I definitely don't think D tier.
Okay,
because I would rewatch it, but again, I'm also biased because it has that therapy aspect in it.
Fair. I didn't hate
The
it,
average
so I'll put it in C tier.
Yeah.
But
like there's some things you can see in that first row that I would argue would be D tier.
okay. Well,
but we'll get there.
Maybe we will.
We'll get there.
Maybe we will argue. All right. So next on the list, next release, Late Night with the Devil. I just want you to know, if you're watching on video, I will always place the movie in B tier initially, just to start the conversation. That doesn't have any bearing on where it's going to go. So just FYI, if you're on audio only, I have now placed Late Night with the Devil in B tier temporarily.
Oh, and I forgot, we didn't talk about the rating. So Night Swim was a PG-13 horror movie.
Oh, PG-13.
That matters.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, though, considering how watchable it was, that's a bonus. Like, that's bonus points for C tier. Like,
yeah.
PG-13 horror can be really cringe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not cringe. It was actually decent.
Yeah.
Okay, Late Night with the Devil launched with a tremendous amount of hype. Shudder original, if I recall. Again, it was just nonstop, like, you have to see this crazy movie of the year kind of talk on Twitter. So I think I'll kind of like give the because I spent a lot of time on social media for my job, so I'll kind of give like how I saw it received.
Yeah,
and then you can give us the nuts and bolts of the.
Sounds good.
Talk to us about the movie now. Late Night with the
So
Devil.
yeah, I believe Shudder original, released on Shudder. Release date was March 22nd, 2024. So I think we probably missed a few things that came out between there. We're jumping from January to March.
Mhm.
It is an R-rated horror film, so already gives it bonus points for me. Definitely partial to the R-rated films.
Yeah.
Very simple synopsis: a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms.
No. So I will be something we probably should have mentioned right at the top of the show, but we will be fully spoilering. Like, we're not going to be holding off on any spoilers. So
I guess we didn't spoil Night Swim.
I don't think nothing happens in Night Swim, so it's
fair.
pretty easy not to spoil. But yeah, we'll be talking about like actually in depth some of these movies because some of these were really, really good. And so yeah, if you're looking to avoid spoilers, just once we get to that section, you should be able to use the graphic to skip to the next section. When you see the next movie get pulled up, you'll know we're talking. We'll try our best not to go back to old movies to keep spoilers like free. So Late Night with the Devil launched with a tremendous amount of hype, and there's a reason for that. It was a fantastic film. Like, I loved everything about it. I thought the aesthetic was incredible. The pacing was incredible. There wasn't a whole lot in the swerve department. I don't think there was a lot of surprises. I think it was a little bit predictable.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but not in a bad way.
No, because like, one of my pet peeves about horror is when people are, it's so predictable. And it's like, well, yeah, if you sit around and you're trying to Sherlock Holmes a movie, you can usually figure out what's going to happen in a movie. I would argue that in the vast majority of cases in a film, if you guess what was going to happen, the director wanted it that way. They kind of wanted you to guess it. Like, they kind of wanted you to know. I don't think that there's a lot of people out there that are like cracking the code, you know, just because they're that good. But I mean, it didn't matter to me that it was predictable because it was very, very good. So yeah. I'm going to give this one a solid, probably 8.5, maybe 9 out of 10 rating. And I'm going to immediately ask for S tier.
S tier.
And that might be a little heavy handed, but I'm going to let you give me your thoughts.
I did really like how they did the color changing. So like the recording of the recording of the TV show was in color. And then all the things that happened in the background off camera were black and white, which I thought was a great touch. Mm-hmm. I will say I was pulled out of the movie just a little bit, but this is my own thing because the main character, the David, good Lord, I'm not going to try to say that last name. You want to try?
Yeah, I got this. David Dasmalchian. He
was one of the cops in The Dark Knight. So I just kept thinking, I'm like, oh, it's the cop from The Dark Knight. No,
yeah.
It was very cool seeing him like as a leading role. He was very good. Mm-hmm. I did really like the film. I can't remember how big the ending was. Oh, it was huge. Okay, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Sorry. Yeah, I would probably say like low S personally. Mm-hmm. Maybe like an 8 out of 10. But I don't know. I guess it just depends on what I feel like would go above it too. Something you
like learn, Slashily Ever After fans, something you'll learn very quickly is that I tend to overrate. I get very excited and I tend to like give things. When we talk about in a violent nature, you guys are going to see the art. That you're going to see the. I tend to like things a lot. I tend to be very easy to please, so I will usually probably rank higher in ratings, and she probably usually rank a little lower. So we're going to have to find that middle ground.
I feel like you're very volatile in your ratings, so it's either going to be a top tier movie or the lowest rating ever. Maybe. And I tend to hit right in the middle ground. Mm-hmm. I was looking at all my ratings for the year, and they were all like 4, 5, 6, 7.
No.
So,
I'm very impulsive too, so I'll just tell you. Like we get out of the movie, she likes to ask me when we get out of the movie, like, "What do you think?" And I'm immediately like, "Oh, 4 out of 5, 7 out of 10," and I'll just say it, and then I forget it. And then the next time she asks me, "What do you think about the movie?" It might be 2 different numbers completely. So
yeah,
that's just who I am as a person.
I did really like it though.
I will argue that it was one of the better films of the year.
Would you
one of my favorites?
Would you rewatch
Absolutely,
it?
I'd rewatch it tonight. I'd sit down and rewatch it tonight.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think that holds a lot. That'll definitely change tier ratings. Like if something's good but there's no rewatchability, I think that would drop it lower. I would watch this again, knowing everything that happens. I would still watch it again.
Absolutely, because there's so much about it. Is like the story is fantastic. I don't think that the story was bad, but there's just more to it that makes it so watchable.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers.
It's a fun movie, and like the aesthetic is great. It really kind of pulls you into the whole. Was it? Late night shows. It was an old, like I grew up, my dad was like obsessed with David Letterman, so I would like watch David Letterman every day with my dad, and so for me it just pulled me back into that old school like late night talk show mentality, you know, before things were like they are now, and it's just so like I know it was always scripted, but it feels more scripted now. Maybe I'm just turning into an old man.
You're cynical.
But all right, cool, so that's Late Night with the Devil, Dubs. All right, so Immaculate, starring Sydney Sweeney. Numerous times I'll tell Brittany something about Sydney Sweeney. She's like, "Who's Sydney Sweeney?" And now finally we've seen Immaculate. I can say the one from Immaculate, then a nun lady. So Immaculate.
I love this movie.
Yeah,
but I'm also a huge fan of like The Omen. I've seen like the original. I've seen the remake with Julia Stiles. We did not watch the one that came out this year, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Which I think probably has a lot to hold. Like this movie didn't do very well, like box office wise. I'm going right into it. I didn't even talk about what this movie is.
It's okay.
It is a R-rated horror film.
Hopefully nobody is grading us at home.
Our consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having fun. R-rated film, Sydney Sweeney. I will tell you that it released to a lot of fanfare on Twitter. People were very excited about it. I heard there's something to the... What happened?
It actually came out the same time. It was the same release date as Late Night with the Devil, March 22nd.
Oh, well, that's tough to compete with right out of the gate.
But I think this was probably released in movie theaters, and Late Night with the Devil was not.
No. Immaculate got a theatrical run for sure. People were excited because there was a lot of talk about how Sydney Sweeney was really like invested in the project, and like she kind of forced it out.
I actually read more.
Yeah,
I read more about it, so I can talk about it too.
Yeah, sure.
So, quick synopsis: Cecilia, a woman of devout faith, is warmly welcomed to the picture-perfect Italian countryside, where she is offered a new role at an illustrious convent. But it becomes clear to Cecilia that in her new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets.
Sick.
The ending was so good.
Yeah, so again, it released to a lot of fanfare, and then the overwhelming response I saw on Twitter was that it was not great. People were not fans.
Really?
Right? And so what's funny is I think what that'll do to somebody like me who spends a lot of time online reading is like, I'll go into it like not expecting a lot because of that. I'm like, oh, well, people that I trust in the horrorverse on Twitter have been like, it's not great. And so I kind of went in with low expectations, and to me, this one hit a home run. It was like way better than I expected.
That's so I really want. Do you remember what anybody said about why they didn't like it?
Not really. Remember, this came out like March.
Yeah.
Right?
So I went in completely blind. I knew nothing except for the title of the movie, and then maybe like 4 minutes before the big reveal, I was like, is this what happens? And that's what happens. So it's very good. So apparently Sydney Sweeney had auditioned for this film originally in 2014.
Really?
Yeah, when she was 17.
Oh, wow.
So it never happened. Obviously then I guess she got more money, more jobs. She got more famous. She got more famous.
Yeah,
she produced the movie and then sold the film, like the rights to Neon. And so that's how it got made.
Gotcha.
Which is a really cool story. I think the Omen remake or the next one that came was like a couple weeks later.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if maybe that has any bearing on how good, not good that Immaculate did. I really liked it. A lot.
I'd be willing to. I know you were a fan, and I really enjoyed it, so I'd be willing to maybe place it in A tier. Definitely no lower than B tier.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like I guess maybe it's just a personal preference because I like those movies and that storyline. I would say I liked it better than Late Night with the Devil, but I will concede to A tier.
Okay, because I think you'd have a hard time arguing it was a better film than Late Night with the Devil.
No, I agree.
Maybe like
would you rewatch it?
I would rewatch it. I would
rewatch it, but I think I'd be more excited to rewatch Late Night with the Devil than Immaculate.
That's literally what I was gonna say. I said I would,
but I liked Immaculate.
It's gonna get a little bit meta now because I would rewatch it, but would I go out of my way to rewatch? Probably not. I probably like if you wanted to watch it, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'd watch it. This isn't like a. If you told me you were gonna rewatch it, I wouldn't like pull out the Steam Deck and be like, okay, I'd watch it. But like at the same time, I'm not gonna pick it if I'm picking it to rewatch. So I think A tier is a fair place to put it. Fair. I do think it's better than a B tier movie, and I think that it got unfairly treated. And I don't know if that's again, like you said, because it went up against. Because I love like Catholic horror movies too, like ones that are like based in that Catholicism and the demons and angels and
yeah, religious horror movies are the best. Like the Conjuring series too, even though it's not technically Catholicism.
It's The Conjuring.
Those are so much scarier to me.
Yeah.
Than like anything else.
Good films. Okay, cool. So next on the list. Absolute box office smash hit, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Okay, so a little backstory about this film is that I really wanted to see it in the theaters, and I visited her. We used to be long distance. I visited her in Virginia, and we were like so excited because it was like, oh, it's going to be in the theaters. It was a limited run. It played for 3 nights. Yeah. So we didn't get to see it in the theaters. So
this movie came out on March 26th, but it wasn't like released for you to be able to watch it like online until June. 26, so it was a long time. Yeah, the theatrical run was a limited like 3 nights in limited theaters, and we just missed it. But it's unfortunate because I really do think that this one was made for the big screen, right? Yeah, it was better. It was very funny. I was so confused. So definitely spoilers. One of the 100 Acre Woods little creatures died in the first one. Piglet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he is back again in this movie. Wait, no, Eeyore. Eeyore died in the first one. No, Piglet died too. He got choked. Okay. Yeah. Right. So, but and in the movie, it starts off with all of them, and I'm like, but apparently the original, if I remember correctly, was like a movie in the universe, a movie that's created in this movie's universe. So... Yeah. So at a certain point in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, they're watching the first film on the television in the movie. So like the first film that we watched, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the original. Is like metaverse wise is like the feature film about the happenings of the first movie. Yeah. So the second movie is the real world, and they have the first movie in the second movie. It's awesome. I'm a sucker for these. These are really bad movies. Like objectively, they're low budget, they're low effort, but they're so fun and they're so silly. And so for me, from like a emotional standpoint, I love it. This is S tier for sure. Like I love the movie. I'd watch it over and over again. But objectively, it's not gonna win any awards. We didn't even talk about what the movie was about either. Yeah. So you can break it down. It's from the 100 Acre Woods, Winnie the Pooh. So Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Owl, and Tigger. It's got everybody in it. I don't think Eeyore's in it actually. Oh, you're done. Rip Eeyore. I think maybe that's how they got evil, is because they ended up somehow Eeyore died, and then they're like revenge for Eeyore. Anyways, they fight this town of Ashdown, leaving a bloody trail of death and mayhem in their wake. So it's a very violent movie. It's a rated R film. It was very fun. Yeah, I loved it. Like I said, I would from a fun standpoint, entertainment standpoint, 9.5 out of 10. Really didn't ever have any lulls. A lot of action, a lot of cheese, a lot of like eye rolling and goof. I'm rating this movie's quality perspective. I mean, I don't think it can go anywhere but D. Agreed. I also don't have any desire to rewatch it. I would love to, but we're different people. I would rewatch it only in the purpose of like watching it before the next one came out. Right. Just like as a appetizer for the I like one. Doing that. Whenever like a new movie comes out in a series, I want to rewatch the entire series. Like it was so hard not to rewatch the entire first season of Squid Game before we watched Squid Game 2. Mm-hmm. I just want to relive it all. It's a lot of fun. I wish there was just nothing but time. Right. You can just do all that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to fight hard to keep it at the top of D tier because I love it. And I would even argue for C. I just don't want to waste the time and the energy because this is going to end up being at the bottom of the tier. Like, who cares? C or D tier? It is a lot better than the first one. Like, they clearly had more money. The creatures were way better. I remember before in the first one, it's like straight up just a one solid piece of like plastic for the mask, whereas this one it's multiple pieces probably glued on because it actually emoted. But we're going to talk a lot like at the end of this year, or at least like throughout the year on Slashily Ever After, we're going to be talking about these Pooniverse movies because they have like 6 of these movies or something coming out. Pooniverse. The Pooniverse, yeah. It's like they're going to do
all kinds of films, like individual films with the individual characters, and then they're doing like an Avengers style mashup with all the characters.
Oh, that's right. I
so,
forgot.
So more to come. But for the time being, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is going to be placed in the D tier. So
agreed.
All right, Sting will be our next film. Sting, tell us about Sting.
So Sting was actually one of the movies. Like at the end of the year, we were like, we gotta add some more movies to talk about for the podcast. So Sting was one of those like last minute. Let's watch this. It's a creature feature. It's actually surprisingly rated R. I guess because it's pretty violent.
I don't see why though.
You said you don't?
I don't see why.
I don't feel like the violence is that bad. Thinking maybe, I don't know. After raising an unnervingly talented spider in secret, 12-year-old Charlotte must face the facts about her pet and fight for her family's survival when the once charming creature rapidly transforms into a giant flesh-eating monster. I don't understand how this is a charming creature. It's a spider.
Yeah, and it was never at any point. I'm just gonna say it before we get too deep into it. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on this movie. It fucking sucked.
Yeah,
it sucked. It sucked.
It was okay.
And the problem is that like I'm literally sitting here breaking. My heart is breaking. Putting Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 in D tier. This movie has not, and I'm so easy to please. I'm so easy, especially a creature feature. Like I don't feel. How do you fuck up a creature feature? But they managed to do it. Like it's just everything misses. It's not charming. It's not so bad. It's funny.
You don't feel for the child. You don't feel for the family. You don't feel for anybody that dies. Like
you don't, and none of like the touching stuff where it's like, oh, like near the end of the movie, it's like about a stepdad and trying to prove he's the dad, but he sucks, and the wife sucks, and the kid sucks, and then he's telling the kid it's not your fault when it super was your fault.
Yep.
You don't care about the spider. The spider's really not that good at stuff or intimidating. Like they just all die because they suck. And then the ending is like, it's like, please don't leave this open for a sequel. Nobody wants to see more of this. She named it Sting because of some Lord of the Rings connection. It just, everything misses. And how did
it end? I don't even remember.
It ended with the spider got the mom and got the stepdad and got them like,
and it got mushed, right? How did
it got
get
smushed
mushed?
in the trash compactor.
Oh, that's right.
The overarching storyline is the stepdad.
Forgettable.
The stepdad. It's so. We watched this movie 3 days ago, and you forgot everything because it's so boring. So the stepdad is the handyman working at the apartment complex they live at, and it's like a part of the story is like him always having trouble with the trash compactor not working, and then the big payoff is that he kills the spider in the trash compactor, and the crowd went mild. It's like no one cared.
Went mild.
And no one cared, and then
Fine.
yeah, there wasn't even any stakes. Nobody important died. Like it's just everything sucked. It's the worst movie. I think this might.
I will say though.
This might be the worst movie of the year.
I'm fine with that. I think I would have rated Winnie the Pooh lower. Just as a personal preference thing.
Fair.
But this feels fine to me. I will say the only redeeming thing about this movie, and I was talking about it while we were watching it, I don't think you really agreed, was the exterminator guy. He's very funny.
He was funny.
I thought he was hilarious.
He was. I don't disagree, but that didn't make the movie for me.
No,
it didn't really.
It's just the only part of the movie that I liked.
Didn't even bring up like a point. And then
Did he die?
They fucked it up at the end too, because then he just was dumb and got himself killed. And he was a dick. He was funny and likable, and it's like they did it. They made us care about a character. Then they made him an asshole, and then he died. And you're like, okay, yeah, they couldn't even get that right. So sorry, I'm gonna go 1 out of 10 on Sting, and I guess I take it personal when you mess up a creature feature because I love him so much.
Funny you put a 1 out of 10. I thought this movie was fine. I rated it a 4 out of 10.
That's fair.
Just because it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it didn't.
I took it personally that they're doing it. I was excited about it.
This is where I'm saying, like, his ratings are very volatile.
Yeah, I took it. I was offended.
S or F.
Abigail
was fine.
Abigail was great. I'd say even better than fine. It was great. First of all, it gave us one of the best moments in horror this year. The scene with the girl coming back, and he's like, "Those are fucking onions," and she has the onions. He was supposed to get garlic.
Oh.
And then she's like, "I got it," and he's like, "Those are fucking onions." That was like, to me, that was a top 5 horror moment of 2024. So go ahead.
Abigail, R-rated horror film, which already makes it better for me. After a group of criminals kidnap the ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they're locked inside with no normal little girl.
No normal little girl. Yeah, so this one got a lot of positive attention on Twitter, and I think it was deserved. People were excited, and the reception was very good. I don't recall if it got a theatrical run, but it was on streaming very fast. We watched it on streaming.
It's currently on Prime.
Yeah.
I guess it's something we should start saying. If people are like, I haven't seen this movie. This movie's on Prime for free. You don't even have to rent it.
Yeah, we had to pay for Sting, didn't we? Or was that on Hulu? I think
it was on Hulu.
Okay, so Sting's on Hulu.
Yep, so that's also free.
Cool. All right.
Free for your subscription.
So not a ton to say other than I would have rated this high. I don't recall what I rated it when we watched it, but I'm guessing it was somewhere in the 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 range.
I think I put it as a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Like, I don't know. I guess
I
don't like young kids.
Yeah, you hate kids.
So like, I didn't like the young girl in Sting, although you didn't either.
No, she's useless though.
She's not actually a young girl. She's like a really old vampire. But she's stuck in like a child's body. I just don't like children like trying to like bat their eyelashes and start crying because they want help. And that's what she kind of did to like, oh, I'm not actually bad.
Yeah, but then the swerve when she was the vampire was great, and then I thought the characters were really, really good. The dude, who was also the guy who was also in Cuckoo, the main.
Oh yeah,
antagonist,
the guy that was Beast from Beauty and the Beast live action.
Yeah, I love that you list the Beauty and the Beast and I list Cuckoo. We're two very different movie people.
I loved Cuckoo. We'll talk about Cuckoo.
Yeah, we'll talk about Cuckoo.
I never even saw Beauty and the Beast. Right. I think his name's Dan something.
But he was fantastic in the role. He was a great antagonist. I think Melissa Barrera was the main character. Am I correct?
Who?
Melissa Barrera from Scream.
Which Scream?
From like Scream 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was.
I haven't seen those.
She hasn't seen them yet. We'll get
Dan Stevens. I was close.
So
I said Dan
Stevens is the main antagonist. Melissa Barrera is always solid. I've always enjoyed her work. I love the swerve. I love the goofy. Like I said, the it's a horror comedy. It's not a super serious movie. It doesn't take itself super seriously, but despite that, it's a pretty serious movie and pretty good. So I would probably put it A tier. And it's like, again, I know you were not as. I mean, I wouldn't argue for S because I know you didn't like it. You gave it a 6 out of 10.
Fine.
But I do think it was very good quality and it was very entertaining and it had iconic moments and it was a very, very good movie. I would argue for A.
I would argue for B, but if you're insistent on A, I would say it's below Immaculate. I loved Immaculate.
Fine.
I don't know. It's hard.
It's picking nits. I think it's a better movie than Immaculate too.
It's hard because it's like, I'm sad that Immaculate didn't do well, but I loved it. I loved the ending.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it too. Like, don't get me wrong. I argued. I immediately placed it in A tier.
Well, let me not talk about Immaculate anymore because we're on Abigail.
You don't want to spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it now that we've left it.
Yeah.
But the ending was so good, and I feel like nobody would ever put that in an ending because you just.
It was big.
Kids have plot armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. That's why Abigail survived as a vampire.
Because she's a kid.
Yeah, solid movies overall. Okay,
we can argue more.
Instead of arguing about it, let's just be fine with it being an A tier. We might have to restructure. But I really am excited to talk about I Saw the TV Glow, so let's put that up here and we'll talk about this. I don't think I'm going to have any trouble with the rating.
This is a movie we watched more towards the end of 2024. It was one that we wanted to fit in. Doug was like super excited about it. We personally, a lot of these movies we've talked about just throughout the year when we watch them, we have not really talked about I Saw the TV Glow, and I think Doug will be pretty surprised about how I feel about I Saw the TV Glow. It is PG-13 horror movie. Oh, I didn't even say when it came out. I Saw the TV Glow, May 17th. So around your birthday. Yeah. So a teenager, it's loading. Sorry. Teenager is trying just to make it through life in the suburbs, is introduced by a classmate to a mysterious late-night TV show. That is the synopsis. Very, very vague.
I don't like you saying that you think I'm going to be surprised because that makes me think that you're going to poop on it. Because I think this is one of the very best movies of the year. And I am going to basically throw a tantrum if it goes anywhere lower than S tier because it was a phenomenal film. Absolutely. It's a PG-13 horror movie, which automatically puts it on hard mode. And they managed to make every character in this movie. I was automatically and instantly invested. It's very, very low. There's not very many characters. You have the main character and his high school friend. Just the raw emotion and feeling. Every moment of the film was intentional, and every moment of the film made you feel something. And the fact that they were able to drive the entire story off of there really was no violence, there really was no gore, there really was no jump scares, but the existential dread, the heart-wrenching emotion that you feel, the devastation, the finish of the film, the ending of the film with the breakdown is some of the most raw and emotional like media I've ever seen. And I don't know. I just felt like it was a perfect movie. I can't criticize anything. Like I think that because they played the game of like you have to sort out what happened. They don't hand deliver anything. They don't feed you anything. Mm-hmm. You have to figure it out. But I thought that the actual payoff was fucking brilliant. And the finale, that final scene with the emotional breakdown at the kids' party, and then he's walking, apologizing. That was really good. He's apologizing to everyone, and then they just don't even look at him. They don't see him. They don't acknowledge him. It's like, it's just so, it was so good. It was just so good. It was not only would I rewatch it, I will rewatch it. I will purchase it on 4K Blu-ray. I will tell people that this is one of the greatest PG-13 horror movies of all time, is my opinion. It's so perfect. A perfect movie.
I think that's fine. I think it was a fine movie. I thought it was kind of boring. I really didn't like it all that much, but I can see all the things that like really hit for you. Mm. And I'm fine with putting it in A tier because I'll tell you this. So I'm sorry, S tier. Okay. I am fine with it being an S tier.
I'm glad you're fine with it in A tier, but
I'm fine with it being an S tier. So the reason why is because I'm looking at all the ratings through IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, and it's funny. The critic scores on both are very high. And the user, the average person, myself, is pretty minimal. It's very mid-range. Currently, like IMDb user score is 5.8. Rotten Tomatoes is 71%. But in terms of critics, 84% for Rotten Tomatoes and 86% for Metascore. So it is definitely more of like, it's an artsy film.
Yeah, it's an art film.
And I don't really like too many artsy films. Like they gotta have something else that hits for me. I thought it was kind of boring. I could not stand the main character's voice the whole time. I was like, clear your fucking throat.
That's so funny.
And then also they had him wheeze a lot, and as someone that has asthma, that's not what wheezing sounds like, and that really bothered me as well.
Yeah, that was the storytelling, because like the whole concept, and those of you who have seen it will know, is like theoretically, which I believe, and I think most people believe, is that he's been sent to another universe, and his actual core person is slowly suffocating. And so that's why he's wheezing in the now.
See, I like that kind of idea. I like thinking, maybe if we watch it and I go in it with that mindset, I guess because if it's not overtly like, this is fake and this isn't real and this is just cinematic like storytelling, to me it just felt like a mental breakdown for both of them. And they were like, whether they had some kind of schizophrenia or something, I don't know, but that's more how I saw it, was more like a mental issue, and it just wasn't as entertaining to me. But if I go in it thinking about it like that, I think I probably would like it better.
Well, considering the fact that I insist on rewatching it, we'll have to watch it again.
No, and and that's why, and again, because the ratings are very similar to how we feel, like you rate it very high, I gave it a solid 5 out of 10. It's fine for me. Damn, that's crazy. I know.
It's fine. That's fair.
It's fine for me.
That's the fun thing about.
That's why I'm totally fine with it being an S tier, right. Because I know not everybody feels that way. And just
to be a sweetie pie, I'll put it below The Handmaiden of the Devil, because I know you like that more.
Aww.
So just for you, I'll put it below. Even though I would argue, I don't know. This might end up being.
I thought you were gonna say this would end us. I'm like, really?
No, dude, whatever. I'll just watch it on my.
I will watch it. I want to watch it again with that mindset. Actually,
it was just so good.
But then you should watch it thinking about it more from like a mental illness perspective.
I bet you all love it just the same.
I think you'll probably still love it. If it's just them having
a breakdown, and it's like, even then, that's just how devastating. How devastating if that's just like that he just was living at home and just so sad forever, never broke out of his shell, never found out who he was. Just either way, it's a masterpiece. I love it so much. All right. Cool. Another masterpiece that I'm sure we'll spend hours raving over is The Watchers.
This was actually the last movie of the year that we watched apart.
Yeah, before we moved in together.
Yep.
That's true.
So this came out like middle of the year?
We each went to the theaters separately and watched it.
June 7th is when this movie came out.
And then we moved you in the end of August.
Well, we actually moved in the beginning of August.
Yeah.
And then I started work at the end of August.
True. That's what I said.
Don't cut off all the time we had together. It was important.
I would never. So The Watchers, the directorial debut of M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I love this movie.
So did I.
thought it was.
It's not gonna be rated high. It's pretty
I
generic.
think it's again, it's another fine movie.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't rate this one, so it must have been before we started doing stuff like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'd both agree that we both enjoyed it more than it deserved in terms of like tier list rating, because I think it's going to be a solid B tier movie.
It's a PG-13 horror movie.
Yep.
Again, released in June 7th. Stars Dakota Fanning,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is the first movie I've ever seen her in as like an adult. I think the last movie I watched her in where she was like not a child was the Twilight series.
Mm-hmm. We
I
love
don't think
Twilight. We love Twilight.
Twilight. Maybe we'll do like a Twilight episode.
Slashily Ever After is going to find out more about how much we love Twilight.
Yeah,
we'll do a whole just wait until we get an opportunity. Like I'll record that episode tomorrow. I don't care. I love.
We need something to come out for a reason for us to do it.
Exactly.
I'm
just
sure
an
there will
excuse, like a fucking comic book, and we'll do a whole series of Twilight because we love it. But, anyways, Watchers was I'm not upset that I saw it in theaters. I didn't mind spending theater money to see it. I enjoyed every minute of it. I thought the ending. Now, one thing you'll learn the more you listen to us talk about movies is that she's got more of an analytical brain about films, and whereas I'm more of an emotional. I watch a movie and I'm a himbo about it. I shut my brain off and I watch. So I'm that guy who like the most obvious twist ever. I'm like, no way.
Wait until we talk about that one movie.
We'll talk about Strange Darling and I'll talk you guys will laugh. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not that I'm not intelligent. It's just that I'm dumb. And so
No, it's not that you're dumb. You live so in the moment when you watch movies.
Exactly. So, and I do it intentionally. Like I can sit down and try and figure it out and probably figure it out, but it's way more fun to me to be surprised. And so the Watchers had a twist, which was probably pretty obvious to most people at home. But to me, I was like, that's crazy. And it was so cool. And I liked it. And I had fun. And again, we're both very emotional people and we were very connected. So like we did this like a date night thousands of miles apart. Like she went to the movie and I went to the movie on the same night so we could talk about it on the same night. So that's going to give it a little bit more of a nostalgic bump up. I'm a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan and I'm really excited to see his daughter follow in her footsteps. And I hope that means that we get more batshit crazy Shyamalan content moving forward. So
love those Shyamalans.
For that, we want to give bonus points. So I think we're going to rate it higher than it probably deserves and give it a B tier. Do we agree? B tier?
So I would agree with B tier. I will say I'm very biased with this movie. My parents and I have watched all the Shyamalan movies together. I grew up watching them with my family. This was actually the last movie that I saw with my parents in theaters before I moved across the country with this guy. So there was a lot of emotion there, knowing like I think it was like maybe a week or two before you came.
Right before.
Yeah, it was literally right before. So I loved it. I would probably rate it higher than it deserves, but I think overall B tier is fair.
What's fun about having your own podcast, we can rate however the fuck we want. We can put it in S tier. Who's going to tell us no, right? They can't stop us. So
I think it is a solid directorial debut.
Agreed.
As well.
Yeah. I don't think that she'll be embarrassed by this film in 10, 15 years. Like you'll come back to it and be like, that was fine. It was a good movie.
Yeah. It's a solid start to her career. I like B tier.
I do too.
Okay.
All right. So next up, we've got Quiet Place Day One, which was the continuation of the Quiet Place series. There are currently, this is the third film, correct? We had a Quiet Place.
Yes, it is third film, but it is a prequel to the entire series.
Prequel series, which, I mean,
it was released June 28th.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual
I'm gonna
specs of the film.
I wanted to start going, and then I'm
before
like, I gotta pause.
Trash it.
I'm not gonna trash it. I didn't trash it at all. No, you might be surprised. We talked about it a little bit.
We did talk about it. So it stars Lupita Nyong'o. I'm sure I probably said her name wrong. I'm sorry. Phenomenal actress. I love everything she's been in.
Agreed.
She actually blew up when I worked in the movie theater. So I like her.
You worked in a movie theater?
I did. I worked there for 4 years.
It's an inside joke. I always joke about it. When we first started dating, she never stopped. She would always bring up that she worked at a theater. And so after a while, I'd be like, you worked at a movie theater? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't think we really need to talk about the synopsis of the movie. It's the starting of A Quiet Place. Everyone's seen A Quiet Place. If you haven't, probably should. So it's where all the monsters come from space. And then everyone's like, oh my God, what do we do? I love that there's a cat in this movie the entire time.
Yep.
Neither of our cats would have made it through.
No,
they would have died, and we would have had to leave them behind.
No offense,
or we would have died.
I would
with
have
the
left
cats.
at least the boy. I would have left. He's just too yapper. He yaps too much.
Although when we grab him, he's quiet.
I guess
so
I just have to live in a headlock. Like for the rest of his life, he just has to be in a headlock so we don't get killed by the.
Yeah.
Quiet Place monsters. All right, so A Quiet Place, the original film, is one of my favorite movies. It's like top 100 horror movies ever, and I love horror movies, so that's a big deal. It's a high-rated movie to me, and I remember when I watched the movie, I remember feeling like I wish they would release a movie that showed what happened at the moment.
Yep.
So this was a big payoff for me in that, and I love that they did that, and I love that they did that with an entirely new cast. I think that I was probably a little harder on this movie. Like, I think that this is going to be one of those situations where I don't recall what I rated it when we saw it, but I think that I'm probably going to bump it up at least a little. I thought it was great. I didn't think it was the best movie I've ever seen, but I did think it was so much better than A Quiet Place 2. A Quiet Place 2, I could talk about that for an hour, but it was very disappointing to me. And what upset me the most about it is that I remember when Quiet Place 2 came out was during like COVID and people couldn't go to the theater. And so
oh, that's right.
And so it took forever to come out because like what's his face? Because Jim from fucking Office was like, he's so
John Krasinski.
He's so, I don't want to say narcissistic, but he's got that ego. He really, I remember when the movie came out, when Quiet Place 2 came out, he had an intro where he came on and was like, hey, listen, I know you guys had to wait forever for the movie, but you'll understand when you see it that if you didn't see this in theaters, you wouldn't be able to experience. And then the movie sucked. It was fucking mid, 5 out of 10. Wouldn't watch again. And I'm like, your original was so good. The sequel was mid, and I could have watched it on Blu-ray. Could have watched it on streaming. Would have been fine. But day one, fantastic. So I would say the original Quiet Place is still the GOAT.
Yeah.
Of the Quiet Place universe.
Yeah.
Then I say day one is the second best.
I agree.
And I thought it was very good. And I like the new original characters. Mm-hmm. And spoiler warning, but I'm sad we won't get to see her story continue because you know that. But I think that ending wraps up the story and makes it kind of better.
Yeah. So she ends up being like super sick. I think she has cancer or something, and so she essentially sacrifices herself so that her friend can get onto a boat to go to like the island where there's no aliens there. So she and the cat. She sacrificed herself for the cat.
True.
So the cat lives, which is the most important, in my opinion. Man, excellent ending though.
And I love her so much. Like I just love the character so much that it almost makes me rethink: is this the best in the series? Maybe.
I think this is the second best. I would still agree. I think they're very closely behind each other though.
Well, they're also kind of two totally different style movies. Like the first movie was like rode on tension and the unknown, and like you really don't know anything about the creatures, and they're starting to learn more and more. And then with the Quiet Place day one, I feel like they faced more difficulty because we already kind of we're all the way knowledgeable.
It has a lot to live to.
Yeah, so now you have to like kind of drive it more on the experience and the moments and stuff. So again, they kind of the real hook and the real appeal is on character building instead of universe building, and they knocked it out of the park. You really do care about the characters, and like some stuff came out about like I forgot the guy's name, her friend, but
his name in the movie.
Yeah, I forgot his character and the actor's name in general. He's a British actor if I recall correctly, but information.
Joseph Quinn.
Joseph Quinn. Yeah.
Eric.
And so Eric, after the fact, you find out that Eric was actually struggling with his sexuality, and he was like having identity issues and things like that. And so that all kind of plays into the character that they created, which I thought was pretty awesome. Like it was pretty awesome to like put some more depth and
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, that was all. This is Twitter shit. I'm sorry, this is just Twitter shit. This is me reading the
okay. No, that's cool. That's
and
cool.
stuff. So yeah, they confirmed, the director confirmed that was the case. That
okay.
He was gay and that he was struggling with his identity and his sexuality. He had actually come to the US to live somewhere where he'd be like able to live more authentic to himself.
That's so interesting.
And then the world collapses around him. He's like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, so
because I thought he moved there to like for a job or for school or something.
Yeah. So again, they kind of pulled some stuff. I remember the controversy was that they confirmed that with a scene that got pulled from the final film.
Oh.
And it's like unfortunate, but that depth alone makes it even again.
His
like
character development was really good.
It was
very scared the whole time, and he finally manned up for her because it's like his best friend.
Yeah.
And she
kicked
his ass.
It makes me want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah,
I want to watch the whole series together because we never watched the first two together either.
No, that's cool.
I would
watch
like
the first one, and then I'll play my Steam Deck when we watch the second one, and then we can watch the third one. Anyways, all that to say, I think Quiet Place Day 1 deserves A tier.
I agree.
I think it was a great movie.
Where would you put it?
below Abigail. And because you forced Immaculate to the top of Abigail, I have to, now we're
It's
just
funny. I would put it above Immaculate.
That's crazy, but I think Abigail was a better overall movie.
Okay.
I don't know though. It's really close. It's one of those. It's pick and nits. Like if you really want it.
I think it's probably also a preference of your style of horror movie. Comedy horror is not my favorite.
That's true, and I love it so much. Also, though, I would argue that this is the most iconic of the three because the Quiet Place series is an iconic series.
Yeah.
It's like very well known. Abigail is more of a niche movie, so maybe we do put it at the top of A tier, just to what's the word? Pay our respects to the Quiet Place.
Okay.
So yeah, let's do
and
it.
then it also just depends on how A tier fills out because we still have a fair amount.
I think there's going to be a lot because I don't want to just put everything we liked in S tier, so there'll be a lot more in A tier.
I think we'll have more in A tier as well.
This one, all right. So coming up next is going to be one. This might be our most divisive film, but we're going to talk about In a Violent Nature. So give them the bookworm stuff.
The bookworm stuff.
And then we'll talk about feeling stuff.
This will be much easier to do when I've actually been keeping track of everything better.
Yeah.
So, In a Violent Nature is essentially like a new remake inspired by the Friday the 13th series. It was actually not rated. There's a couple not rated. Also, Winnie the Pooh 2.
Winnie the Two Blood and Pooh.
Winnie the Two Blood and Pooh.
Winnie the Two Blood and Pooh, dude. Yeah, we watched some underground shit this year, you guys. Like, look out.
It was not rated. It was not rated R. I was mistaken there. So this is a horror film that is following the perspective of the serial killer, which is great. When a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit, spurred on by a horrific 70-year-old crime, his body is resurrected and becomes hell-bent on retrieving it. I really like the concept of the movie.
And then it stops there.
That it follows the perspective of a horror character, like the actual killer. Like you don't see that. You don't see movies where the bad guys win. You don't see movies from the perspective of the killer. But you see that with this movie, which I think is great. But it was too long. So
No.
It was too long.
All right, so
there was a scene in the very beginning where the guy is like walking. He's resurrected. He's walking. He's still walking.
Somebody did the numbers on Twitter.
He's still
for
walking.
Like how much time, and it's like over 20 minutes of the movie is just the
dude walking.
It's just Johnny ambling through the woods. But I loved it. Okay, so again, she kind of touched on it earlier, and we're gonna touch on it here again. This is a very pretentious. Oh, we got a cat cameo. This is Dahlia, the Black Dahlia, the Gray Dahlia.
Look at the camera, Dahlia.
Say hi. Up here.
Hi.
Up here. She's the sweetest. I have a cat named Leatherface. He's around here somewhere. He'll jump up eventually too, and you guys will meet him. He's the worst. In a Violent Nature was very pretentious. It was very pretentious. It was very artsy. You can definitely tell that the director and the team was like kind of trying to shove it down your throat that they're doing something new and interesting. All that being said, though, it hit for me. And I think that one thing that horror Twitter kind of was down the middle. I think there was a lot of people that were like me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
there were a lot of people that really liked
bad.
it and they really loved it. But then there was a lot of people that were like, I get what they were going for. It was a miss for me. And so that's where I think the divide in our household is at. Like, I think down the middle, we would agree on this line, like the concept rules.
Yes.
And the idea of doing like a first person slasher is so dope. I want to hope that, because there was some awesome kills in this movie. Like
the kills were phenomenal.
There was some awesome kills.
And so much dread. Again, spoiler alert, with one of the kills, being in therapy, I've had patients who have spinal cord injuries, and that one of the dudes, his neck gets broken, and then I'm totally spoiling this.
It's okay.
He ends up being like tortured from the feet up, and he can't feel any of it, but he's watching it happen to his body. Like, what?
You're giving me the heaves. It's
so creepy.
It was so messed up.
Bad.
Yeah.
I love it though. It was so good.
And then the yoga chick on the hill was like kill of the year.
That was the
for
best.
a lot of votes too, which is it's ridiculous, but it's great. So I think there's a lot of bonus points for that. There are some minus points. One of the mechanisms, one of the art house mechanisms, was a campfire scene where the camera was in a constant rotation, and then it was like a single shot constant rotation. That was a miss for me. And that was
too much. It was like too fast too.
Yeah, it kind of gave me motion sickness. It went on for way too long. I get the concept, but that was a miss for me. Everything else in the film was a hit though, including the most divisive point is the final act, the last scene. So again, spoiler warning. Basically, our final girl is escaping Johnny, is picked up by an old lady who's driving in the woods, and there's like a 20-minute drawn out
that was
monologue
good.
scene.
I loved that.
Where like she's talking about shit, and you're just like, when is it gonna happen? When's Johnny? And then it just never pays off. It just ends. The movie ends.
Liked it,
and I thought that to me was such a fuck you to the people. Because again, one of my pet peeves, you guys will learn over the course of the podcast. One of my pet peeves is people who are like, I figured out the ending. It's too predictable. Like too predictable to me drives me fucking nuts. And the funny thing is, I know for a fact that that scene was a slam dunk from LeBron in the face of people who were like, oh, any second now, he's just going to solve it. And then
it didn't happen.
They didn't get their payoff.
That was that
was awesome.
Agree. Now that you're reminding me of this, I love that you like read all this shit on Twitter.
Yeah. It's me. It's my job.
I did really love that. I hated how long the walking scenes were. I hated the campfire scene. I loved the ending.
And the kills were amazing.
Kills were amazing. Ending was amazing.
So for all that, I'm going to beg you to possibly place it at the bottom of A tier for me.
Yes.
She's so good. She's so good.
Because again, reliving it, talking about it.
Yeah. Because again, it's bonus points. Like it's not an S tier film because it even got too pretentious for me. Yeah. And it got a little too artsy for me.
This is on AMC Plus, by the way.
AMC
if you want to watch it,
I kind of want to
rent it. Can rent it from Prime for $4.
Yeah, and it's worth every penny of $4. Like it's a great movie. Just to experience something. It's like the first time it's really been done.
Yeah.
And then I
would recommend you watch it.
They will be having a sequel too, so I'm going to get you to rewatch it for the sequel.
Yeah, I will rewatch it for the sequel.
So
and then we'll go, and I'll wear a Friday the 13th shirt.
Yeah.
It's very clearly and overtly saying that it is a new version of Friday.
Yeah, it's a love letter to the F-13 series, which is great because she's so goofy.
She's rubbing her face. She's like, this needs to smell like me.
My chair now.
My chair.
So yeah, it's a love letter to Friday the 13th, and we haven't had a legitimate Friday the 13th project. So like 2009 was the remake, and they never touched anything again. We've got the Crystal Lake series coming from A24 soon, like in the next year or two. But otherwise, Friday the 13th really has been missing content, so it's nice to have another series kind of slide in there. I'm really excited. Hopefully they take some of the feedback from In a Violent Nature, and the sequel kind of tunes down a little bit on the dead air. I think there's a lot of dead air, because again, we recall we'll go back to the campfire scene and the rotating camera. That was really the only payoff. There was the camera, and there really was no like storyline payoff in that scene. It was just a lot.
I feel like that whole scene,
a lot of yapping for nothing.
It was telling the story of what happened to him, but again, because it was so long and the campfire rotating was so insane, I tuned out a lot of the storyline. It took away
from the storyline.
Yeah, it took away from his backstory. Yeah. Yes, agreed.
No, I did last thing I'll say, because again, I think I liked this one a lot more. I know I liked it a lot more than you, and I think I liked it a lot more than most. But I do love that it kind of made fun of itself a lot. With the dialogue was like intentionally ridiculous, and some of the things were like intentionally ridiculous. The kills were intentionally overboard. Some of them went way longer than they should have, and so I think the whole concept was like it was super meta, poking fun at the genre. But all things considered, phenomenal film. I'm probably rating it a little higher than it deserves, but I don't care because I loved it, and I can't wait for the sequel. So
I'm fine with it. I agree with it being up there.
I love that we did this in the order of release. It's kind of like doing a good job of making movies. Because again, I'm gonna shit on this one.
Yeah, Maxine, I would say it was the biggest letdown of 2024.
Absolutely devastating film. Devastating, because I loved X and I loved Pearl is a goddamn masterpiece. We've already named our next pet after Pearl, right? Like that's how much we loved Pearl in this house. And so we were both anxiously anticipating the payoff with Maxine, and it just did not hit. So you can talk a little bit about that.
I don't think we need to talk too much about the storyline. Yeah. It is a R-rated horror film, which you would think would give it some, but it's not. It's on HBO Max if you want to watch it. Highly would recommend you watch the entire series in order. So with X, Pearl, and Maxine.
Yeah, and if you watch them in order, it's fantastic because X is a great slasher. Pearl is the best in the series by far, and then you can just kind of have this on in the background so you can complete the series.
So I think we should probably talk a little bit just about the other movie. Not a lot, just a little bit.
Sure.
So going into this movie, we had very high hopes for it. We actually had rewatched the entire. Doug rewatched it. I watched it from start to finish. So X is like Doug's favorite of the series.
True.
I rated it a 7 out of 10. Pearl was my favorite at a 9 out of 10. So I was very interested in Maxine.
If I could cut in though,
Go for it.
My favorite is X, but I objectively agree Pearl is the best movie. It's better. I liked X because I like slashers more than psychological horror movies and more than like, so for me, my personal favorite was X, but I would never even begin to argue that Pearl is not a fucking masterpiece. Pearl's one of the best horror movies ever.
I think I can't rate something a 10 out of 10. I don't know why. I can't do it, but if I could, that would be it.
Pearl, yeah.
And then to see Maxine after, I was like, what?
It just lost everything. And I get what they were doing. Like the concept was X was the slasher, right? It was filmed in the same film shooting style of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, right? And then Pearl was kind of like Wizard of Ozzy. Like it wanted to hit that different time frame, that time period. And that was like and so then Maxine was like that 80s, like, style, and I think it just missed. It just flopped. And the storyline was ridiculous. Suspension of disbelief was like really hard for me.
I think they probably rushed to get it out after the hype of Pearl.
Yeah.
And ended up missing a lot because of that. But
I wasn't rooting for Maxine.
There was the suspension of disbelief. So her manager just happens to be like, oh yeah, I'll just kill all these people that are like messing with your life. Totally fine. Yeah. What?
Oh, the whole time it was her father that had like a religious cult, and then like
came out of nowhere. A religious cult.
And like, why did she? And she's just like addicted to drugs forever. She's like, oh, she just does cocaine forever. Like I don't know. I just think it missed on everything. I thought that the dialogue was cheese. I thought that the characters were unlikable. I was not rooting for Maxine. The only character in the whole film I liked was her horror movie obsessed best friend guy that worked at like the video store, and he just died for no reason, and there was no impact. It was just a rare miss. Ty West usually slays, and again, X and Pearl. I cannot stress enough that we've literally pre-named our next pet after the main character of Pearl.
Yeah.
And that's how much we love the film.
Yeah.
And Maxine just missed. And for me, I don't shit on movies very often. Like the fact that I liked it less than Sting.
Really?
I genuinely liked it less than Sting. I only would rewatch it to verify that because I feel like it sucked, and I feel like it was almost borderline irredeemable. I would rewatch it only to verify that. I would not rewatch it for any reason other than to just be like, let's make sure that I didn't have like a stomach ache that day.
But I would never rewatch Sting.
Okay, fair.
I think it belongs in like top. I don't think it's better than.
At least this movie is fun.
Winnie the Two.
Winnie the Two, Blood and Pooh. Winnie the Two, Blood and Pooh was fun, and it's part of the Pooniverse. Okay. This gets the power. Imagine this movie compared to the universe, and this movie compared to the universe. This movie did more to damage the brand than this could possibly ever do.
Yeah, but the brand of the Pooniverse is pretty low.
Exactly. So the expectations can be low with it. Expectations for this were like very sky high. I'm not going to put my foot down. If you like it above Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, I realize that I like comedy horror more than you.
I think it's
and I am more of a gimmick
than
guy.
Winnie the Pooh.
I think you're wrong, but I'll give it to you. Because I'm just, again, I get offended.
I gave you in a violent nature.
I got offended by the fact that this was Ty West's payoff to the series. So
we've spent so much money to watch that movie too, because it had like, did it either just leave or we just didn't feel like going to the theaters? Yeah, we dropped like
$30 or $25, and it flopped.
Not worth it.
No, Maxine
So watch it on HBO Max.
Watch it where you can not have to pay for it. And then if everything I'm saying is wrong and you hate it, just hit me up. And although I will tell you, I got a good buddy, a member of my Twitch community, Macabre Phoenix, who we always talk movies. He without any context, he sent me his reviews because he watched the whole series, and to a T, hit the exact same as me. It was like, I loved X because it was a slasher. Pearl was a masterpiece. Maxine Blue. And I was like, yep.
Then you just have another like awful crying scene that was too long. Because it's a shame because I've loved everything that I've seen her in. I can't remember her name.
Mia Goth.
I've loved everything I've seen her in.
Yeah.
Except Maxine.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like, she couldn't save it. I think it was just too corn, too cheese.
Yeah.
The characters were too forgettable.
Yeah.
And like, wasn't Kevin Bacon in it too? Like,
yeah.
It's like, come on, man. You guys had so much to work with and you flopped. But now that we're done talking about massive disappointments, let's throw on a movie that had
We got like a
massive
few
hype.
really good ones.
We're cooking
So
now.
that one?
We're cooking now. So long motherfucking legs. All right.
Do we even need to do like a synopsis?
No, if you haven't seen
movie?
Long Legs, if you're an hour and a half into a podcast about horror movies, you haven't seen Long Legs, then man, just pause the podcast and go watch it. Long Legs, Nicolas Cage, Micah Monroe, who I share a birthday with, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And I share a birthday with Nicolas Cage. This is like the Slashily Ever After movie then.
Yeah. It released,
did you just do the...
I did. And then the Thanos thing. I like you. I love that guy, bro. All right, so Long Legs released to like maybe the most hype ever. It's Osgood Perkins.
Yep. R-rated horror film. It is like more thriller than like what the average person would say is horror.
Yeah.
It is still a horror movie, but it's definitely more thriller, psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the true crime aspect. I'm a true crime junkie.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that this is like connecting our worlds was like perfect.
Borderline perfect movie. I mean, Micah Monroe's performance is fantastic. Nicolas Cage had like horror performance of the year as Long Legs. The swerves were good. I don't think that anyone that tells you that they guessed the ending is probably, I don't know, I have a hard time buying it. I think that they did a really good job of kind of like making it. I mean, I'm sure at a certain point you can figure it out. But I didn't find it overly predictable.
No, and I also don't think, I think all the hype was deserved.
Exactly. And
I
that's
don't think it was overhyped
when
at
a
all.
film has that kind of hype, it's going to be a hard sell, and they hit the home run. It was perfect. It was a perfect film, essentially. I know you won't give it a 10 out of 10, and that's fine.
I rated it an 8 out of 10.
I would probably give it some in the 9.5s. I have no complaints, no notes. Really.
Here's the thing: we watched this movie as a double feature. Mm-hmm. So the next movie we're going to talk about, we saw before, and then Long Legs we saw after. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's why I rated it an 8 out of 10, because I loved the next movie. I would put it top of S tier.
Yeah.
I think it deserves it. I think it's phenomenal. I don't know how we have. I think the only reason we haven't rewatched it is because we've been trying to get as many movies.
Many other movies.
And
it's just too much other stuff.
We're gonna do this again for 2025, so we're keeping up with everything coming out in 2025. So it's very hard to rewatch something right now. I think we need to though.
Yeah, I think so too.
I loved it.
I don't think that the boys have seen it, so maybe Derek saw it. I don't know if Gabe saw it. Maybe we'll force that. Maybe we'll do some forced.
We're gonna make them
time.
watch it with us.
So I will say, you're not gonna agree, and I don't. That's fine. I would have put Long Legs below I Saw the TV Glow. I saw the TV Glow.
I feel like I Saw the TV Glow is too niche.
That's fine. That's why I'm going to put it at the top of the S tier, because I don't disagree that it is a phenomenal. I mean, the thing is, any of these three movies could be my favorite movie of the year. I guess maybe not.
I can't wait.
I would like to move away now with the double below I Saw the TV Glow.
You gave me Long Legs. That's fine.
Because at this point,
I can't wait till we talk about our top 10, our personal top 10.
These two could have easily been my favorite movie of the year. Like I'll give you that. Good. So, I like that this makes me feel a lot better.
Okay.
So cool. All right. So next up, guys, if you talk about bonus points for an unsung gem, like we saw Oddity as a throwaway film. We were like, we got to see Long Legs.
Here's the thing. This was right before we moved. Right before we did the cross-country drive from Virginia to Washington State. And we did a double feature for these films. We went to a movie theater that was an hour away from where I lived, where we were staying before we moved, so we could see Oddity and Long Legs.
Yeah.
And I guess synopsis for rated R horror film. Is it the one really violent scene? Do you actually see anything?
I don't feel like I don't think it had to be rated R, but I'm so glad that they did. Whatever they needed to do to get the movie to be exactly
being
what it was.
So uncomfortable and you're on edge the whole time. I think being R is fine. I don't remember there being super violent scenes. Psychic medium attempts to uncover the truth behind her sister's murder at the site of the crime. I remember seeing the preview. I think we either saw it together or we saw it in front of the watchers. But I was like, it's fine. It looks fine.
It looks like a Shudder original. Looks fine. I'm sure it'll be an okay film.
And I don't know. I guess the older I get, the more I like jump scares, because I used to hate them.
Well, I don't think you had a single cheap jump scare. And
they
I think
were not exactly.
Not only were the jump scares classy and well developed and well set up, but the existential dread and the aura, it's one of the very best movies of the year in my opinion. It's so good, and like you said, it almost took away from Longlegs because we watched Oddity and then we watched Longlegs, and it was like objectively Longlegs was phenomenal, but like I mean you're watching Longlegs and like in the back of your head you're kind of thinking about Oddity.
Yeah,
it was that good.
This was so good.
And I have some friends, some really good buds that are really into horror, and like immediately after the credits hit on Longlegs or on Oddity, I was like, you need to see Oddity, make it a priority, like see this movie. This may be the scariest movie of the year. I think I would argue on the list, it's the scariest movie on the list.
Yeah, I would
so
agree.
Far. And I don't know, it might end up being the scariest movie of the year.
However, I think the rewatchability is fairly low for this
I don't know
movie.
about that.
I would rewatch it simply because I love it, but I don't know. I'm in the middle on if it's a good for rewatch or not a good for rewatch, because now knowing everything that happens, like would it fill me with as much dread knowing that if I watched it again? I don't know. And I don't know if the jump scares would get me as much.
I think it'd be fun in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you kind of know what's happening.
Yeah.
I really would like to rewatch it.
I loved that movie though.
We'll put this on the list, yeah.
It was one of my favorites. I don't know if the rest, like objectively, it's one of the best though.
I think it is. I think that again, I'm
not gonna argue. Okay.
Again, the overall vibe from horror Twitter is like, where did this come from? This is one of the best movies of the year, and we felt that way before I read it on Twitter. So I didn't just have Twitter telling me that. This is how we felt, and so I think it belongs in S tier, and I think I'd argue again better than Late Night with the Devil.
Okay.
But I wouldn't put it over I Saw TV because I guess
that's fine. I would, but that's fine.
For this movie. So.
I know you are.
Okay, so 10 out of 10. No notes. Oddity is perfect. We got to see it again to see if it's good.
I think part of the reason why it was so good for us too is because we didn't know any of the actors. And so going into something not knowing, like you don't have any, again, with Late Night with the Devil, the whole time I was like, that's the guy, that's the one cop from that one scene in The Dark Knight. Like, that's just me. And I guess that's another reason why Longlegs was so good, is because Nicolas Cage was unrecognizable. So I wasn't like, that's the guy from National Treasure. Like,
I love that you picked National Treasure.
Because that's the last film we watched with him in it. We watched it with your family.
I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, you're right. All right, so another one that I think we loved it, but we're also going to be honest about how it's rated.
Yeah, so...
Is my phone on non-silent mode? Is this 2024? I don't know, but all I'm going to say is that I just got a text message notification sound for the first time since 2019. Like, what the... I cannot believe that just happened. All right.
It's gonna be great if it's heard on there.
I hope so.
So Trap is M. Night Shyamalan. It's like father-daughter. I don't even want to read what the synopsis says. It is a PG-13 horror film. It was released... When was this released? August 2nd. Father is taking his daughter that he loves so much to like a Taylor Swift-esque concert. The pop star is actually M. Night Shyamalan's other daughter. So love that.
10 out of 10.
Go ahead.
No, it's a great movie. Josh Hartnett, absolute megastar, came back, stole the performance. Now, this is
What was the last thing you saw him in?
I can't remember.
I think
it's like some
30 Days of Night
or something like that. I don't know. I never saw 30 Days of Night.
You haven't?
I'm from Alaska and I've never seen 30 Days of Night.
We gotta watch it. That's the last like new film that I've seen him in, because he's a dad. He's married, has kids. He's very clearly a dad in the film.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it now. I probably will not allow this movie to leave C tier. It's a C tier movie.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. But we loved it like an S tier. Like, it was so fun, so exciting. Josh Hartnett put everything that he has into this role. Like, it was like, imagine you get a guy who's like,
I like how we didn't even talk about the horror aspect. We just talked about the concert.
Because it's so fun. And so if you take...
There's a killer on the loose.
So basically Josh Hartnett plays a serial killer who has a family, and he brings his daughter to a Taylor Swift-esque music concert. And so the concert turns out to be a giant mousetrap set by the police to try and catch this serial killer. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, it'll be very funny. So, again, the concept, absolutely ridiculous. The amount of effort they put in to trying to capture this guy is unreal. The storyline is ridiculous. The amount of ways he's able to, with this entire concert, crawling with police officers and the best like investigator in the world, and it's so dumb. But like Josh Hartnett acted like they had his family held hostage and they weren't going to release him unless he put on an Oscar-winning performance. Like he put his heart and soul into the film. It's so M. Night Shyamalan core with like just ridiculous twists, ridiculous. It's a fucking great movie. We watched it in the theaters. We brought the kids. We left this movie grinning ear from ear to ear. Everybody loved it. We all agreed it was a terrible movie, and we all agreed we loved it.
My favorite thing is how many times he evades the cops. That was the best. Like when, so it's him. He's the killer. Josh Hartnett's killer. He gets caught, then he gets out, then he gets caught, then he gets out, and it keeps happening. And it's like when you're like, all right, this has got to be it. This is the one where he gets caught. No, he still gets out, and it's so funny. It is such a good. Such a S tier in our opinion movie, but as a horror film, I rated it a 3 out of 10 when I watched it.
I'll tell you this too: the fact that the fan service, the fact that they had to do a shirtless scene at the end, like they forced a shirtless scene, like it's just like it was just so obvious that like M. Night Shyamalan was like, I'm gonna make sure people love this movie.
Yeah, because he was the heartthrob of people my age and a little bit older when he was in Pearl Harbor. I remember when that movie came out. And like every girl had like a picture of him. And so it's so fun. All those women are married with kids. And of course, they're going to give the dad bod a show because that's what most of the women want.
So we slap
some fellas.
We slap it in C tier and we're still going to rewatch it because it's still one of the funniest.
You put in C tier? I like it being in C tier as our opinion. I think it's probably a D tier movie.
You want a D tier?
I think. Okay. Well, this is the Slashily Ever After rating though.
Yeah, I mean,
I think for us it belongs in C tier. I think objectively it's a D tier movie.
Really? Because see, for my heart tells me it's like A or B, and then objectively C.
Okay.
But I
like it in C. I want it to stay in C.
I think bottom of C. Like it's
That's
just because again, everything about this outkicked its coverage. Maxine broke my heart. I will not put Maxine over Trap. So I don't want this in the top of D tier because I do think it was better than a D tier movie. It was just too fun. It was too fun to go in D tier. I don't think it's a D tier movie. You're never gonna have you're never gonna feel. You're never bored. You're never upset. You're never disappointed. It's so ridiculous. God, I mean, it's so good. Yeah, I like C tier. I even like it better than Night Swim. I'm gonna put it over Night Swim.
Sure, I like it.
All right. Okay, so now
underdog film.
Now we're done talking about Trap. Let's throw in another film.
Cuckoo.
Who outkicked its coverage so hard.
Dan Stevens is also in this one from Abigail.
Yeah,
and from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, so Dan Stevens is the main antagonist. The protagonist, I don't think she's anyone we've...
It's not anybody that you and I... It's on Hulu for free, by the way. So if you haven't seen this, highly recommend that you do watch it.
Yeah.
So... her name is... Actually, their name is Hunter Schafer. Oh! They were in... what is that HBO series that everybody loved? With the girl from Spider-Man? With Zendaya.
Oh, the drug alcohol one.
Mm-hmm.
Euphoria.
From Euphoria.
I never saw Euphoria.
Yeah.
I only watch horror movies and shows.
It was a very good show.
But I've heard good things about Euphoria. So Cuckoo was another one. Really kind of came out to low fanfare. Came out during the like around the same time as like Longlegs and and Trap. And
so Longlegs was July 12th. Trap was August 2nd. Cuckoo was August 9th.
Yeah, so
right before Alien Romulus.
It was in that same like huge block
of just banger after
flicks,
banger.
Right? And so when you're like, or you've heard all, you're really excited about all these other films, and then Cuckoo's like, what the hell is Cuckoo?
I loved it.
Trailer made it look really kind of artsy and really kind of weird. I loved it as well. I was blown away.
I want to rewatch it.
I would love to. I love the twist. I love the swerve. I loved every individual performance. I loved the story arc of big sister, little sister, big sister hates little sister, big sister grows to love little sister, save little sister. I loved that I loved that, again, spoilers, that it wasn't it ended up being supernatural. It kind of teases supernatural, and then it turns out that it's actually like more of a creature feature than supernatural. And that's
they're like trying to appease really this cool god or something.
Yeah, it was like some old creature.
Yeah.
I loved that. Again, your main antagonist, Dr. Dan, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Again, he's everything he did.
Which I wonder if that's actually his accent. I don't know. I do wonder. But it was good.
Everything he did this year was good. Every movie he was in, he brought up an entire tier, and I would say that again with Cuckoo. It was just a phenomenal film. I like it in A tier. I would give it King of B tier if that's what you prefer, but I think it was an A tier film.
I rated this movie a 9 out of 10.
So I think we gotta at least put it in A tier.
I would say I think this was a movie. I need to rewatch it because I wonder if my feelings have changed. I don't know. I think this movie would have been a 10 out of 10 for me, but I dropped it to a 9 out of 10 because the creature is shown at the end. Very underwhelming. And I wonder if they just never showed it, if I would have thought it was higher.
Maybe.
Because that was the thing about Immaculate. They never showed the big twist. Never saw it on screen.
Well, they never should have either. I think they did a really good job with it.
So
do you think it's over Immaculate? Or do you like it under Immaculate?
I like it above. I like it at the top of A tier. I rated it 9 out of 10.
You want it over Quiet Place?
I liked it better than Quiet Place, yeah.
Man, see, I don't know though.
You can keep it there. That's fine.
I think Quiet Place gets bonus points for being a part of an iconic series.
That's fine.
And not
I can see the
flopping.
argument there.
Cuckoo is just kind of its own entity. I really hope they don't do a sequel there because I think that a sequel would.
I don't want a sequel.
I don't like it. I want it to just
all.
be a standalone film. So, W movie, absolutely no hype and just absolutely crushed it. Alien Romulus.
Fun fact, this was actually going to be the release episode for Slashily Ever After, and then we were like, nah, let's do 2024.
Yeah, see, we ended up getting really busy with like cross-country moves and new jobs and whatnot. So when the podcast was born, when Alien Romulus came out, if you teleport yourself back to those days and times, that's when we first started talking about this podcast. So.
Yep, August 16th.
Yep. So Alien Romulus, Fede Hernandez, isn't it? Isn't that the name of it? Fede Alvarez. Fede Alvarez is the director. Part of the iconic
It's
Alien
R-rated
series. It's R-rated.
Monster horror.
Absolutely phenomenal film. I think it had a
on Hulu right now.
Tremendous amount of hype, and it hit.
Fede Alvarez.
Fede Alvarez. Yeah, I had to think on that real quick. But this one again, the Twitter pulse was this film. By the way, I want to just really quick cycle back. Trap crushed on Twitter as well in terms of like people knowing exactly what it was supposed to be. Everybody agreed that it was a terrible movie that was 10 out of 10. Like everybody loved it. Alien Romulus, everybody was like, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck, and then it didn't suck. I have one harsh piece of criticism. I did not like that they used AI, not AI. They retconned a character from the OG, and they used CGI to basically bring somebody who passed away who was in one of the prior films.
Oh, really?
That to me was a huge L and a huge negative mark on an otherwise fantastic film. If you help me out here, what was it? What's the character's name? Rook.
Oh yeah.
They used the late Rook from the original Alien film. And yeah, I just thought that was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. It could have been literally been anybody. It was and that's unnecessary to bring that one back.
Yep. So that's gonna knock it down a little bit.
But Andy stole the show.
Andy was absolutely my favorite new Alien character ever. My main game on Twitch is Dead by Daylight, and there has been an Alien chapter, and they did an Alien Romulus update, so we got Rain. We got Rain, and we got some costumes from.
But when are we gonna get Andy?
I wish we had Andy. Andy is the man, and that brother sister. I'm a sucker for a brother sister dynamic, and they knocked it out of the park. So I think it was a really, really solid movie. I don't know if it's S tier. I think there was too much good stuff that came out to put it in S tier.
I'm glad I rated this in the beginning. I actually put it as an 8 out of 10 when we watched it.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's probably the top of A tier.
Okay.
I had to argue. I don't see it as, because again, it was a sequel. It was an iconic series. They absolutely delivered. Retconning Rook was kind of an L move. There was a little bit of like issues with the story, I thought, where I'm just kind of like, suspension of disbelief was a little hard, but overall, Fede got a sequel. He gets to film the sequel, so I think that's a good sign. Hopefully, we'll see some improvements onto the formula, but overall, Alien Romulus was very. Also, we watched it in 4K. We watched it in like the IMAX theater,
fancy theater,
which was very fun. It was a very fun time, and you had breakfast popcorn. We watched it in the highest.
Breakfast
possible.
Popcorn's my favorite.
Yeah. So overall, not a lot to talk about. I don't think. I think we all like.
It was great.
It's great. It was exactly.
But
what
if you don't
it
know
needed to be.
anything about Alien, like, there's no point in talking about it.
Yeah.
Watch the Alien series.
W. Okay. Now we're gonna get to. I can't believe we have so many movies left.
We have one line left.
That's
Not even
true.
a full line. We're getting there.
10 more movies. Well.
And I think we'll burn through some of these kind of quick.
Yeah. Well, this one probably won't take much. Buckle up because this is
Stream was actually a last minute 2024 movie for us to watch. I wanted to watch it because I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, oh, it's about streamers. So I was like, we should watch it because that's what he does. And this ended up being a movie perfect for Doug.
Yeah, so a little bit about my backstory is I'm a huge fan of the Terrifier series, huge fan of Damien Leone, huge fan of Phil Falcone, huge fan of David Howard Thornton. So I knew nothing about Stream. It was just on the list. She picked it out. I didn't read anything. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little like, all right. I was like, usually I pick the movies, just this is how it shakes out. She doesn't really care. So I'm like, I'll pick it out. I Lisa Frankenstein this one. I had no interest in watching it. I was like, I would never have picked it off the list. So she's like, let's watch this movie. I said, okay. Come to find out that not only did Damien Leone do artwork and makeup for the film, but Phil Falcone produced it. And David Howard Thornton, the actor that plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier series, also had a prominent role in the film. So if I would have known any one of those details, I'd have been like, this is a must watch. And then it was all three of it was true. So
this movie is about this family that goes to stay in this hotel. They're falling apart as a family, and they're like, we gotta have a family vacay. So they go to this hotel. Turns out the people working the hotel that have taken over the hotel stream to the dark web, and they kill these people, and then people bet on who's gonna live, who's gonna die, how they're gonna die, and then they make money off of it.
Yeah, so it turns into one of those like a post-apocalyptic like Squid Game, Alice in Borderland style. Like there's a ruling rich class that's like watching these it's like a gladiator thing, right? Where they're betting on who's gonna die, betting on who's gonna win, which serial killer is gonna kill what people, who would survive, yada yada. So they're playing games with these normal people. So the hotel is all the way locked down. You have a bunch of characters that are trying to evade serial killers who are like competing, and the whole thing is being live streamed. And it's very, very low budget. It's very splatterhouse.
Super low budget. However, there are a lot of big names in this movie. So there's the dad from Sister Sister. If anybody watched that growing up, he's in there. There is the Candyman actor.
Yeah, Tony Todd.
Probably his last
Tony
film.
Todd, possibly his last appearance. But
and then somehow Tim Curry's in this movie too.
Never shown.
Well, you don't even see his face.
Never shown, but he plays a character, and hopefully we get a sequel with Tim Curry.
With him,
That'd be fantastic.
it'd be so good.
Bill Moseley also has a part in the very end of the film. So it's just
so
again.
I thought it was pretty.
I thought it was
decent.
absolutely from a nostalgia and a connection standpoint, S tier, but from an overall movie, it's probably D tier.
I will say the best part of the movie is when, so it's 4 killers killing everybody. They all eventually die, and so it's just it's a brother, sister, mother, father. Mother dies. Dad don't know where the daughter goes. She's like a typical teenage daughter. It's like, I need to get away from my family. I'm sneaking out. So she's out. She's gone. And then the dad like kills like the last 2 killers, and he's like, we did it, son, we got it. But he's dressed up as one of the killers. That's how he made it through. And then at the end, the daughter comes out of nowhere, kills the father, thinking he's the killer, and she's like, we did it, we made it through. And then the son's like, no, you just killed my dad. Yeah. So it was so silly, so funny. I loved it. I think I actually rated this 4 out of 10. So I think it's probably C tier.
C tier. I mean, I like the fuck you to Maxine. So and again, you're not gonna have me argue to drop it a tier. I'm a huge fan of all parties involved. So okay, bottom of C tier is not bad, not bad. But one that's not gonna even think about the C tier is possibly my favorite movie of the year.
Right?
Strange Darling. Strange fucking Darling.
This was the start of the Scream King this year, Kyle Gallner. Yeah. Yeah, so it is it seemed like a very indie film. R-rated horror movie. Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. The movie trailers make you think that, spoilers, that the guy is the killer.
Kyle Gallner.
Kyle Gallner's the killer. Turns out the woman in the situation is the killer, who is played by Willa Fitzgerald, the lady.
We won't hear this. Not the last we're gonna hear.
So even their names make you leave that. So her name in the movie is the lady, and Kyle Gallner is the demon. So you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. When the swerve hit, Doug thought
I thought I cracked the code.
He thought he cracked the code. This is the one time that Doug was trying to see the end of the movie, and he was like, so what happens is they're in a hotel room, and what is it? He finds her wallet.
Mind you that the entire film, you're waiting. So so the way that they filmed it is they jumped around chapters.
Yeah, it's told out of story.
They started in like
order.
chapter 6 or chapter 5 or something like that. And then in that scene, Kyle Gallner is chasing the lady. He's shooting at her, and so you're like, oh, she got away. And then it reels back, and then you have another scene that shows them in his truck, in Kyle Gallner's truck, and like he has a gun under the chair, and she's like, you're not a serial killer, are you? And so again, mind you, this whole time they're spoon feeding you that Kyle Gallner is the serial killer, and that you're just waiting for him to take his swerve. And so I'm like waiting for it, and then the girl ends up pulling his wallet and finding his wallet, and he's got a badge. He's a cop. And so again, the reveal to the normal brain is, oh wait, she's the bad guy. He's a cop. But to my brain, I was like, he's a serial killer cop? No way.
I was like, they're both serial killers?
They're both serial killers, and he's a cop doing it? So, anyways, we're watching the movie, and she's like, oh no, honey. Just keep watching. And eventually I figured it out. So
I loved the uneven storytelling and the just jumping around.
Yep.
Like going to the ending, going to the beginning, going to the middle, going back to the beginning. Loved it so much.
They told you exactly what they wanted you to know.
Yep.
They spoon-fed you
anything that you thought was how it was going to, like anything that you're like, oh, this is predictable. That's because this is definitely one of those, they wanted you to think that kind of movie.
Yep. And again, we don't have to spend too much time because it's a near perfect film. Everybody's individual performance were 10 out of 10. The story was 10 out of 10. The direction was 10 out of 10. The production was 10 out of 10. As things happened, the couple in the woods, the stoner couple.
Oh yeah.
Had, like the compound were perfect characters.
Yep.
Every no moment was wasted.
Mountains of butter.
No dialogue was wasted. No moment was wasted. The swerves were fantastic. If you go into it completely blind, you're going to come out of it. It's just a perfect. I mean,
we went in as blind as we could.
Yeah, and I did, and it worked. It was 9.9 out of 10. Like it was almost a perfect movie.
Yeah, I rated it a 9 out of 10.
It was I will say, I am probably the largest fan of Terrifier that you may ever meet, and this movie came out the same year as Terrifier 3, and I liked this movie I liked it more than Terrifier 3. It's my favorite movie of the year. And I would like to put it at the top of best year.
Yes, I would agree.
Perfect movie.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Strange Darling. Another perfect movie.
Oh, I forgot to tell you this about Stream. This is not a spoiler.
Okay.
So the ratings on IMDb are pretty low, like 4 or 5 for both the users and the critics. Somehow, whoever is like catered to Rotten Tomatoes, everybody rated it like 70-80%, by the way. Which I thought was hilarious.
Rotten Tomatoes loved it.
Rotten Tomatoes loved Stream.
I mean, it was fun. It did exactly what it was supposed to.
Yeah.
I loved it. So, good stuff.
Sorry.
Strange Darling was a perfect movie. And
Agreed.
My favorite movie of 2012.
Agreed.
2012. No, 2012, 2024. All right. Another perfect movie, Kappa. Beetlejuice. I don't think we'll spend too much time on this one. It's the sequel to the original Beetlejuice, Tim Burton film.
PG-13.
The majority of the cast returned.
It's on Max for free.
Free on Max. Jenna Ortega added to the mix. It's a perfect movie because of what it was.
Yeah.
It's a perfect. It's like Tim Burton sat down with the group at the team and they're like, we're gonna make a sequel to Beetlejuice that feels almost exactly the same, has the same vibes, and they hit it out of the park.
I will say that I think overall is a good film. I rated it a 7 out of 10, and I think the reason I rated it lower, I think it's probably an 8 out of 10 movie. There's a whole part of the film that I feel like is completely unneeded. A whole character, actually.
Yep, and we can just talk about it. We'll just spoil it. So they added the character, the ex-wife, the Beetlejuice's ex-wife. That's Soul Sucks. And that character, if you remove every trace of that character from the film, it would cut out about 15 minutes and nothing would change.
Yeah,
it was a useless character.
Argument is that, so in the original film, Beetlejuice and Winona Ryder's character, I can't remember her name, Lydia, he's like, we gotta get married, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he's like still pining after her in this film, and it could have just been like, he still just wants to marry her. And that could have been the reason why they're forced to be getting married this time. But in the movie, they're saying Beetlejuice really wants to marry her because then he can get away from his ex-wife.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if she's dating Tim Burton, which is totally fine. But I think this person was put in this movie because they have a connection with Tim Burton. She didn't have any lines. I thought she looked very cool. I love the aesthetic of her pulling her body together and stapling herself. Badass. But I think her character, other than that intro, unnecessary.
Yep, I would argue that if she was the main antagonist, if they had made the movie around her, it could have been fun.
Yeah,
but instead she was like a throwaway side story, and then
it's like they added her after. Like it's like the film was the script was already written, and then they're like, let's put one more character in there.
Yeah,
like it definitely seemed like an afterthought.
And then even at its best, even at its perfect, it's still probably going to be a B-tier movie. It's just a comedy horror movie, a family comedy horror movie. It's nothing to write home about. They didn't, but I'm glad they didn't try and reinvent the wheel.
Though.
I'm sure they did.
7.5.
It'll probably get a sequel. Like, and then there was some Willem Dafoe was in the movie. Like there was a lot of there was some. I mean, and again, the majority of the cast returned.
Was an underdog this year.
He killed it this year. We'll talk about him more later. But yeah, I like it at the bottom of B-tier maybe. I think I liked it under the Watchers.
Okay.
I thought Watchers did more unique, more interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Whereas Beetlejuice was just a good movie.
Yeah, it was fine.
Fun.
Very fine.
It's exactly what you want, and exactly what you needed, and it's a box office hit. It's a very,
I'm glad it did well.
It's very much a movie for the normies.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily for
like
the
people that aren't. I was honestly surprised it was PG-13. There was a couple parts in there I was like, that's pretty violent.
Yeah.
But I guess because it's not like red blood, it's fine.
I guess so. Yeah.
But I thought it's definitely a family film, family horror movie.
Mm-hmm. If we had young kids, it would be great. It'd be like, oh, we could watch this.
We brought the cats with us.
But I'm saying like, a couple of adults sitting down to watch Beetlejuice kind of felt a little meh.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Fine.
It's fun. I didn't hate it. I'm glad we watched it. Wouldn't watch it again. I don't think. It's not iconic like the first one. Like,
agreed.
I think that
first one is scary.
It's kind of like rehashed, basically. Like, you know.
Same concept.
Beetlejuice plays the exact same character. Lydia plays the same character. The new characters aren't anything to write home about. Rip Bob. Just threw Bob away for no reason. Trash. Anyways.
Yeah.
We'll keep it nice and
that made me rate it low.
Okay. Now, we're going to talk about a movie. If you're plugged into the horror Twitter scene, you're plugged into horror media, you might not have heard of this one. It's really flew under the radar. But Speak No Evil.
With James McAvoy. You think
now,
a film with such a high, like, famous actor would get a lot of recognition.
So if you're plugged into the horror scene, if you watch a lot of horror movies and look at a lot of horror social media, you'll know that this movie might have had the most advertising of a film I've ever seen. Like, there was like a block of time where every piece of media I had, Twitter, Hulu, everything.
Going to the movie theaters.
Anything you did, you saw a commercial for Speak No Evil. Like this might have had
there was something
the biggest marketing budget.
Like with video games, I was like, it's even like infiltrating video games. Yeah. Somehow it was there. Like I don't
Twitch
remember.
ads and shit.
It was
just
something
everywhere.
Like
so this might have been the most advertised film of all time, definitely of 2024 of the horror scene. So it turned into a meme. And the funny thing is, like, between us, it turned into like an us meme. Like we would make jokes about it. It was like an inside joke. And then I saw Twitter talking about it. It's like, everybody's noticed that this movie has 8,000 previews. And despite all that, it still took us forever to finally watch it.
Yeah, we watched it at Christmas.
Yeah, watched it around Christmas.
This movie came out in September, I think.
Yeah.
September 13th.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I thought it was about as B tier as a movie can be.
Yeah, it was fine. I guess because of all of the hype around it, seeing the previews everywhere, we wanted it to be good, and it was fine. The kid is the best part of this movie. Such a badass. I liked him.
Yeah.
So the way that the movie ends, big spoilers. This is a remake, apparently. His brother-in-law. Well, yeah, your brother-in-law. Was telling us it's a remake of a movie. So in the remake, The kid murders the family that took him hostage, and everyone lives happily ever after. And apparently, in the original, the family wins. I think that's a better ending.
Yeah.
I think I would have rated it higher if the family won.
Yeah, we talked about this after the fact, but the family, like the family under siege, the
James McAvoy and his wife.
No, the other family, the good guys.
Oh, the good guys.
Those people were wholly
awful,
unlikable. There's not a single decision they made, not a single line of dialogue that made me like. In the end, I was rooting for the McAvoy clan. Like the bad guys were infinitely more interesting, infinitely more likable, infinitely more relatable. It's like I understand you guys are just psycho. At least I can understand what you do and say. These other people were just the worst. They were just the worst, and I just think there was no payoff to me. It didn't do anything unique. James McAvoy he kind of tried to Josh Hartnett, like he tried to carry it with his performance, and he did a very good job being interesting and scary. Not enough to save the movie. I don't think it's C tier. I think it's just like, had
it been any other actor, he carried it.
Yeah, it could even be C tier. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Like, I would let you.
I think it's B tier. So I rated it. It's on Peacock if you guys want to watch it for free.
Yeah.
I say free. If you have these subscriptions, you can watch it. It's on Peacock. I rated it a straight 5 out of 10. I think it is a B film. I think it's right in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely better than Trap.
The only thing that keeps this thing from being a generic horror film is James McAvoy.
Yeah.
As the leading role. Okay. Everything about it was just crushingly generic.
Yeah.
So cool. Bottom of B tier. Perfect place for it. Easy peasy. Let's talk about one of my finalists for favorite movies of the year.
The Substance.
Talk about Golden Globe winning lead actress Demi Moore in The Substance.
Yeah, this movie came out September 20th. I don't know. Did you get a lot of hype for it on Twitter?
Absolutely, yeah.
Even in my everyday life, my normie life, I treat patients. I've had multiple patients tell me, you got to watch this movie. And I was like, okay. So I actually brought it up to you, and then you were like, yeah, I've actually had people say stuff about it too.
Yeah.
So we watched it. I thought the first 70% of this film was phenomenal. I thought the end was abysmal. It was hysterical. It was unnecessary.
It was awesome.
You loved it, but awesome. That freaking substance monster, and then the face dragging itself around. Huge spoilers.
So I think that The Substance
unnecessary
is a phenomenal movie, and when they got to the final act, they had two choices. They could end it kind of dark and abrupt, or go off the fucking rails.
I would have liked it to be dark and abrupt.
Off the rails is what they chose, and I adored it. I thought because it had a little off the rails early with what's his face, who's the guy, the manager, he's a famous actor.
Oh, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, thank you.
I didn't have to look at that. I was
Dennis
like,
Quaid, like they kind of went off the rails a little bit with Dennis Quaid, the zoom ins on the eating shrimp and the getting gross, and then just obviously they're selling him as a disgusting, horrible human, which is like nailed that. I loved it. I loved that they went off the rails. I thought the ending was phenomenal. It's just like, because to me, okay, so bear with me. To me, you're almost being brought along with Demi Moore into her psychosis after she's gone back and forth and off. She's gone back and forth to The Substance so much. She went completely apeshit.
Well, she was locked in there for like 3 months.
She tried so hard to squeeze a little bit more out of it, and it made her insane. And that's why I think that the ending is kind of mimicking the insanity. And the thing is, like, you're not the first person that's told me, like, I loved it till the ending. And I think that your traditional horror enjoyer or traditional film enjoyer didn't like that it was, because again, it was a little off the rails early, and then it just like they took the train into the ravine off the rails for the last act, and I loved that. And it's like, if that hits for you, you're gonna love the movie, and if it doesn't hit for you, it's gonna be minus points. All that being said, Demi Moore did win a Golden Globe for a horror film this year, and it was The Substance. So like, I don't think you could argue that this film was
I think
bad.
She did great. She wasn't really in the end of it.
Yeah,
I think she did great.
So I think it was a great movie.
I rated it a 6 out of 10 on my personal scale.
Right.
Where would you like to put it?
Talk about A tier is what I would say. I think that I would even argue that it's S tier above Late Night with the Devil, but I don't think that I'm going to talk you into it because you hated the ending.
Yeah, I think it's probably like mid A tier. But that's fine.
Is there a foot down here, or can we leave this at the top of A tier?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm not going to argue. It's not who I am.
That's fair. That's why I was fair with my.
I'll hold on to it till the end.
Sounds good.
I actually don't have any like pool for the last few movies.
Yeah.
I think it's probably mid A tier, like below Cuckoo, but that's personal preference.
Yeah. I think that it was. I think that even if I hated the ending, I'd still put it up here because it was just such a unique concept, and to me, more slayed so fucking hard.
I would really like a prequel, but I don't think it would do as well because a prequel wouldn't be a horror film. It would be like a science fiction film.
She already said there will be no
prequel.
sequel, so there will be no.
I
she
said
wants to
prequel.
tell. I know, but she wants to tell new stories, and I feel like she probably
Yeah.
kind of cast that in the same boat. Prequel would be good to understand where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of love when there's like this kind of like post-apocalyptic concept of like a thing that like the otherwise world around them is normal, but this one thing is like a thing that happens. That's just, I don't know. I just love it. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was essentially a perfect film. Then I thought that the ending even made it better. But again, I think it's either hits for you or it doesn't. It didn't for you, it did for me. But I appreciate you keeping it in A tier because again, this personal preference wise, I think this was my second favorite movie of the year, if not third. Probably third after the next one. Because Terrifier 3, Damien Leone, David Howard Thornton, Sienna, the people.
Sienna, the people.
I can't remember her name on the top of my head because I struggle with that sometimes. But if you're not already,
it's a not rated horror film.
Yeah, it was because it was NC-17 core. It was like so bad that it was worse than R. So if you aren't a fan of the Terrifier series, you probably hated this movie. If you are a fan of the Terrifier series, you probably love this movie, and there really is no in between. I
really liked how, huge spoilers, not a single person had plot armor in this movie. I couldn't tell you any film off the top of my head that killed a child, let alone many children. Especially not killing a child literally in the first 10 minutes of the film. Like they just, again, Damien didn't hold back, didn't pull any punches. The original Terrifier was fantastic film, but it was an indie film and one that was definitely while they were getting their footing. Terrifier 2 was my personal favorite movie of the year released, and I am a huge fan of the Terrifier series. I anxiously awaited Terrifier 3. I knew that it would deliver, and it delivered exactly what it told us it was going to. Did we see it opening night?
We saw it
opening night.
First night.
We had it was packed theater, but it was a small theater, maybe like less than 100 seats for sure. Two separate times people walked out.
Nope.
It wasn't 3. There was definitely people walked. Minimum 2. There was, unsurprisingly, like a family walked out during the bombing scene with all the kids. And then the other one, I think someone walked out, which I was shocked. I'm like, you made it to the end of the movie. The final, like
closing act,
the family being tortured scene.
I think it was putting the rats inside her body was like too much. And they're like,
but that was too much for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, I think that the film's success speaks for the quality. It was the #1 movie in America for like weeks. It made millions upon millions of dollars on a small budget. Terrifier 4 is already confirmed and will be, apparently they'll be closing out the Sienna saga, Sienna and Art. I don't think there's any chance in hell that Art the Clown is gone after this next film.
I would say it hurt itself that the brother died off screen.
Yeah, so they killed off one of the iconic characters off screen. But again, who knows what's going to happen. These movies are off the rails. So, say what you will about Terrifier. I think this movie was just generally well received. Critic scores were 60s, 70s, and audience scores were up into the 80s. 8%. You either like it or you don't. Like, it's a splatter film. It's the best, and you're not going to argue that there's a better splatter series on the market right now, at least current. I mean, obviously Saw is like the iconic splatter series.
And Scream.
And Saw. True. You could definitely feel when you watch Scream. If you guys go and watch Scream, you're gonna feel the influence of Damien Leone and Phil Falcone because it's the same.
The guy that plays Art the Clown.
David Howard Thornton.
Yeah,
basically plays the same character.
Essentially, it's just Art,
just
in
not
a different
clown.
Costume.
It's like if Art decided instead of being a clown, he was going to be like a post-apocalyptic edgelord, right? But you either like him or you don't. You either get it or you don't. So yeah. It is what it is. Terrifier 3 was my favorite movie of the year because I'm a huge Terrifier fan. Objectively, not as good a movie to me as Strange Darling. Objectively. Honestly, if I was going strictly as a movie critic, I would rate Strange Darling, Longlegs, I Saw the TV Glow all over Terrifier 3. Probably the substance as well, which we have a disagreement about where this one belongs. But and then I would slap it above Oddity. But then for me, like looking at it objectively, I
don't think it's an S tier movie.
I don't think so. I think unless you're
I rated it a 7 out of 10.
I'll put it I would even put it under the substance.
Okay.
But only because
I think it can belong under the substance.
I do think the substance belongs in S tier, and I had to settle for A tier, top of A tier. But Terrifier 3, because again, you're putting yourself into a box with this film. It's a splatter film.
Yeah, it's a very specific type of people are gonna like it.
It's a horror comedy almost.
But it was, what is the term when someone like does something that no one's done before?
Innovative, groundbreaking.
Very innovative in the fact that nobody has plot armor.
Yeah,
Not a single person has plot armor.
They murdered children and killed off main characters.
So
like
good.
It's like some Game of Thrones shit.
It was
just,
awful.
Like, pop people off, but
it was just like, I can't believe they did that.
But again,
So
it's like you're the king of your niche, because this is absolutely a film in a niche, and that's why it's not going to be above some of these ones that are just like. And again, it doesn't have to do anything with the indie or mainstream, but just like these are not really as niche. Whereas Terrifier 3 is very much like, do you like splatter films? Well, you're gonna love this one. And some people are just gonna understandably not like it, and that's okay. It's a great movie though. It's my favorite movie of the year. Strange Darling was right there though. God, that movie was good. All right.
Can't wait till we talk about our personal top 5, top 10, whatever we decide.
All right.
Now 2.
Another phenomenal sequel, another phenomenal follow-up.
Kyle Gallner's in it.
Kyle Gallner. That opening scene, spoilers, the opening scene done in one, it's filmed in one shot with Kyle Gallner, is the greatest part of the movie, and everything about the movie was great. So that Kyle Gallner,
you're not let down watching the rest of the movie.
Kyle Gallner absolutely steals the film on that opening sequence, and then is done on the film, and yet it was still absolutely a fantastic film. The original Smile. So those of you guys who don't know, Smile 2 is a sequel to the original Smile, which is conceptually a film about and like an ancient demon where essentially it will like corrupt your soul, and over the course of time breaks you down, and then at the end forces you to kill yourself in front of someone else, which passes along the disease. Think It Follows, but rather than it being about intercourse, it's suicide.
Yeah.
And so again, she had never seen Smile, and so because Smile 2 came out, I had her watch Smile.
We watched
with
Smile
me.
the day before we saw Smile 2.
So it was my third time seeing Smile, which I saw it once in theaters and once at home, and then I watched it a third time with her, and it still hits. Smile, the original Smile, still hits. Smile 2. So I would say that Smile hits because, again, it's building a universe, and Smile 2 builds off of that universe and then innovates off that universe and absolutely crushes it.
I initially, because watching them back to back, I initially rated Smile higher than Smile 2, but sitting on it, I think had I not watched it back to back, it would be different. But sitting on it, Smile 2 definitely better than the first one, and the main actress still, Naomi Scott, is like Mia Goth. You're not always going to be the only scream queen anymore. Yeah,
she's up there. She's in that Micah Monroe, Mia Goth level of like just taking a film and making it her
phenomenal,
film, right?
So good.
Yeah, we loved it. We watched this one in another one of the Dolby films. I mean, she did the intro where she talked about just how passionate she was about the project, and you can see it in every scene in the film. Not a wasted moment, not a wasted word. Good. Oh man, the twist is absolutely phenomenal. Even the minor characters, the supporting cast crushed it. Her mother crushed it. Her best friend crushed it. Everything was great. It was just
and the twist with all that
is so good.
So many twists.
And Smile 3 is confirmed. And if you've seen the final act of Smile 2, you know. So basically, Smile 1 and Smile 2 are completely different films filmed in the same universe. Same concept, same universe, but they had to innovate, right? Because Smile 1 really only worked because you didn't understand how Smile worked. Smile 2 works because you take that concept and you put it on a unique story and a unique character. The final act of Smile 2 completely changes the universe, which means that Smile 3 is going to honestly have to be like more of a post-apocalyptic film. Like they're not going to be able to just talk about one person, one story. Like it's awesome. So if you haven't seen Smile and Smile 2, go watch Smile 2, and anxiously await Smile 3. But this one, I think we're going to put this at the bottom of S tier.
Yeah.
I do and that's hard.
I think it's better than
I will say it's very telling that Smile
it's below,
2.
I think that's where it should go.
It could even go over Oddity for me.
Sure.
I'd argue that it's even
so good.
And to put it this high on the list as a sequel, you have so much writing on, like, so much working against you when you're making a sequel, and then to hit it that hard and to go out. And again, I honestly think that just her performance alone puts it in the middle of S tier.
Oh, you can rent it on Prime for like $6.
Yeah,
it's on Paramount Plus, MGM Plus.
Paramount Plus, yeah. I would recommend purchasing this one. It's definitely a good rewatch. There's some
the jump scares are great too.
Haunting scenes, and not a cheap jump scare. There was some cheap jump scares in the first mile.
Yeah.
The second one they really like dial it in, and God, the flashback sequence to the car wreck is like some of the best.
Very good.
Some of the best imagery of 2024. So phenomenal film.
And Jack Nicholson's son is in it.
Yeah, and you can tell it's him. Very, very quickly, you can pick it out as him because they have the same smile. What a great movie. Okay, we're coming down to the final three. And I love, man, you did such a great job. Because the way that these three films fall is going to be perfect for the conversation. So Heretic came out right at the end of the year.
Heretic came out November 8th.
Starring Hugh Grant.
It is a rated R horror movie. Interesting. It's a religious movie, which for some reason it gets bonus points for me. I don't know why I love religious horror films. They're so good. Maybe it's the fact that I grew up in a religious household with religious people. Maybe that's why it hits more for us. Yeah,
maybe so. I don't know. I'm a very simple man in a lot of ways. So I don't like really dig into this stuff. I just think I like religious horror, and I don't really think about why. But yeah, I did. I also grew up in some sort of like weird religious environments, and I had some phases. But ultimately, Sophie Thatcher, Topher Grace, Hugh Grant, like the cast on this movie alone makes you feel like it's gotta be good,
the most
right?
Eric character ever. Like if you watch that '70s show, which of course you did, it's like Eric grown up. It's so bad. It's
Topher
so
Grace
funny.
stole the show and had about 10 minutes of screen time.
If that?
Yeah, if that. But he was absolutely my favorite part of the film. Actually,
no,
let's not say that.
Grant
Hugh Grant
killed it.
So we talked about this with Trap, and we talked about this with Speak No Evil. But Hugh Grant got dealt, in my opinion, a shitty hand. Because they were like, hey, could you really quickly just carry this entire movie? Her and I, very rarely do we differ this much on a film. But I thought Heretic was awful. I thought it was abysmal. I thought that Hugh Grant was phenomenal. Sophie Thatcher was fine. The storyline was hard to believe. The suspension of disbelief. I had some. And again, I'm very easy to please, and I don't care about believability. I literally loved. I saw the TV glow, and that one is pretty bad. Suspension of disbelief wise. Heretic, I just thought there was just too much where I was like, it was too convenient. It was too like the entire movie felt cobbled together to give us Hugh Grant's performance, which isn't a bad thing. I didn't think it was I didn't hate it. But I did feel like the overall movie was aggressively mid. The story was fine. The twists were predictable and also unbelievable to me. He relied on a lot of luck and a lot of like, it's just, I can break it down if you want, but it's just like the concept that he was able to get outside in like a fucking tsunami and hide the bikes. The concept that he had to bank on Topher Grace checking in to buy time to swap the bodies. The concept that some fucking emaciated basement dwelling brainwashed chick is going to get up the ladder and get the body down and get back down. All this stuff. It's just like, come on, dude. Come on, dude. And that's okay if there's a lot of payoff, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of payoff because the only payoff was Hugh Grant's monologues. Hugh Grant's, and it was like, I would have liked this movie more if it was just Hugh Grant talking to the camera for an hour and a half, and then it was done. Like that was to me. And again, that's just me, right? And again, I could be. You talked about it at the very start of the cast. Like sometimes I get annoyed, and it just ruins the whole thing for me.
Yeah. And
so again, I don't rate movies poorly very often, but this one to me was not good. I didn't like it, but I'll allow you to.
I liked it. I thought Hugh Grant did great. I thought the twist with so it's about two girls who are Mormon women that are doing the door-to-door thing. They get invited in to talk about their religion. They can't be in the same room a room alone without another woman, so they're waiting for his wife the whole time, who's making a blueberry pie. See, I like this movie so much. I remember so much about it.
Yeah. Blueberry pie candle. I couldn't tell the difference.
You think
ridiculous?
There's a badass girl that like wasn't raised really Mormon like through most of her childhood, and then her and her mother became Mormon. And then there's a girl that was born into the religion. And you think that the badass girl is going to be the
Thatcher,
one is going to be the one that like really makes it through, but no, it's the other one.
Yeah, I will. And
I really like that twist.
I'll give you that. They basically wrote it out like Sophie Thatcher is like the convert who has like a rough backstory, so she's going to be the one that's going to be the badass, and then like the little girl next door Mormon girl is going to be like a victim, and then it turns out that the girl next door girl is the badass hero, and Sophie Thatcher kind of just dies like a loser. Has some weird like ending with the fucking butterfly, like kind of being like, what's the word? Supernatural. I don't know, man. I guess maybe I just didn't like it.
Which one are you saying is who?
Sophie Thatcher was the badass one. Right?
Chloe East.
That's Sophie Thatcher, I thought.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Sophie Thatcher and then Chloe East.
They don't look the same in the movie. I'm so confused. That's Sophie Thatcher. Okay. Regardless, the precious little baby stole the show in terms of the two girls.
She did. She won.
Hugh Grant did great. I rated it a 7 out of 10. I liked it. I think it's a very... Well, let's see what users and Metacritic are both in 7.
No. Thought it was fine. I didn't like it. I'd put it at the bottom of C tier if I was choosing, but I want you to choose where it goes.
You want me to choose?
Because it's not fair.
You're not gonna like where I put it.
Well, I at least start, and then I'll talk you down.
I'd probably put it between Abigail and In a Violent Nature.
You want A tier?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yuck. I'd rather top of B tier.
Okay, that's fine.
Than bottom of A tier. I just think it's mid. I would personally put
it's in my top 10 for the year.
And that's fair. I mean, again, I think that's kind of just how this works. Like, I think that the lowest rated movie that I would have put in the top is probably like Watchers, which I thought was really good, despite being kind of mid overall. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I really liked Heretic.
I thought it was just aggressively fine. And I think that if anyone but Hugh Grant played it, it would be D tier.
Yeah, but that's
Hugh Grant
the point.
had to save the movie.
That's the point, right?
Fair.
Didn't we say that with James McAvoy and... You know, the girl from Smile 2 stole the show, too. Like, the acting in these movies are really good this year.
Yeah, I just feel like even if, like, a random chick was an Immaculate, it still would have been A tier, though. That's what I'm saying. Like,
That's true.
I think this is with Heretic, it was just, like,
But any other chick in Immaculate, it wouldn't have been made. She's the reason it got made.
That's true. Yeah. W. Been some random chick in Cuckoo, and it was like one of the best movies of the year.
Random to us, but I think she's probably a big actor. Actress.
This one right here. Talk about tearing a movie up. Anyways.
We got 2 more left.
2 more left to talk about. It's probably the worst movie that we saw this year and arguably the best movie we saw this year. So that's pretty dope. So Y2K is a movie that was literally marketed directly to me. I graduated high school in 2001. So I was alive and I was plugged into media and plugged into the world in the year 2000 when Y2K the original happened. So the concept in the movie is anybody that was alive is like an elder millennial, or Gen X, I think is the one before. Yep. Gen X and elder millennial. Gen X and millennial. So anyone that's Gen X or elder millennial will know that like in the year 2000 there was like kind of some widespread panic about what was going to happen when we went from 1999 to the year 2000 and whether it was going to crash computer systems. And the whole idea was that like it would crash computer systems that like were involved in banking and involved in like other, because the internet was brand new in the late 90s and the early aughts, right? So like at this point, it's not like it is today where you literally need the internet just to survive. Like back then, we used the internet a lot, but it wasn't like the be all end all.
Still dial up.
Yeah, still using AOL and dial up, MSN Messenger. But so the concept of this film is that the Y2K bug actually turns all electronics into like psychotic murder robots. And so it's pretty dope. And the whole movie is kind of filmed from the POV of being a high schooler in 2000, which is what I was. So like, again, the film is marketed directly to people like me. So I naturally fucking loved it. Like I was the biggest Limp Bizkit fan you've ever met in high school.
Fred Durst
is in it. Limp Bizkit's like the centerpiece, which that's the way it was in 2000. Like everybody loved Limp Bizkit and Korn. Everybody loved like the Family Values tour was like a big deal. The internet, all the nostalgia callbacks, like the AOL sound effects, the MSN Messenger, the Messenger ICQ and shit like that. All that stuff was like right on point. All that to say, the movie itself is awful. It's like, it's definitely a B movie, definitely a comedy
B
horror
movie.
I mean, it's filmed in the B. I'm not saying it's B tier.
Okay.
It's a B movie. Is like a B movie is a concept. Like it was filmed as like kind of like it's a low budget. It's a comedy horror, low budget. Fred Durst is like one of the stars. They weren't taking themselves seriously. All that said, my heart tells me it's S tier, but my brain tells me it's D tier.
I rated it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I was alive during Y2K, but I was also
in elementary school.
6.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hold this nostalgic value for me as much. So I have no ties to this.
I don't think you'd argue with
whatsoever.
me when I told you, let's just put it in D tier above Sting.
Oh, that's fine.
It was still better than Sting.
I think I rated Sting higher, but
you'd rewatch this before you rewatch that, right? Would you rewatch Y2K?
I don't think I would have rewatched either of them.
Oh man.
I would rewatch Y2K because you love Y2K.
Yeah, you rewatch it because of the scene when the dude's like talking about how he used to be on X Games with the rollerblades and he really kills himself. That was so fucking funny. That was my favorite. That might have been my favorite horror movie of the year or horror moment of the year. Is the dude talking about how he's like former X Games on rollerblades and he's like, all right, let's get this shit started. And then Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit starts and he just instantly crashes and dies. It's very funny.
Yeah, it is very. It's very our humor.
But overall, like I said, my brain knows this was a bad film, but I loved it because again, it was marketed to me. Yeah. Literally to Doug, Running Man. It's like, hey, did you graduate high school in 2001? Were you the biggest Limp Bizkit fan on planet Earth? You're gonna like. Do you like horror movies that are corny and silly and comedy horror? You're gonna love this film, and I love this film. So, W. Mm-hmm. The final film we're gonna discuss, horror movies of 2024 tier list, is Nosferatu.
Released on Christmas Day, which if I have anybody here that used to work in a movie theater, you know that is the biggest day of the year. For movie releases, and for some reason everybody in the world goes to the movies on Christmas Day, but the fact that there was a horror movie released on Christmas Day speaks volumes, in my opinion.
You used to work in a movie theater? That's crazy.
It was so good. It's an R-rated horror film.
It makes sense.
2 hours 12 minutes, actually long. Doesn't feel like it was that long.
Yeah, it makes sense that movies do well on Christmas because like Christmas is basically like you wake up, you check what Santa got, you eat some food, and then it's like, now what are we going to do?
Yeah. Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Black Friday are the 3, at least for my theater, the busiest ones. Because
you really only have, like, the big payoff is first thing in the morning. And you're like, now what am I doing until bed? Playing with toys and stuff. It's a good day to go to the movies. So, Nosferatu, we saw it in the theater a couple days after release. We went to a matinee showing. It's a perfect movie. I think it's my favorite vampire movie ever. I think that from the moment
Twilight? It is my favorite vampire movie ever. I would argue this movie is so interesting. So you know how like you're like the internet person with the movies?
Yeah, of course.
This one has come up a lot for me in TikTok, and I guess it's the girl algorithm. But apparently, like everybody in the world is simping for Nosferatu. Like this guy that has been pining for this girl forever, will kill the world for her, only wants to be with her. Mm-hmm. And it's just I don't get it. I don't understand that.
Well, you're not a monster fucker, so you're like ew, he's a gross vampire. But like the monster fucker people are like,
I don't get it. And then I feel like what was his actual name? Aaron Taylor Johnson's character was more redeeming to me than that.
Agreed.
Frederick Harding.
Yep, agreed.
Everybody, the perfect man would have been like his whole life is for his wife and his children. Would do anything for him, and that's what he did. So he's like the one that people should be pining for, in my opinion. I rated this movie a 9 out of 10, and there is one singular thing that brought it down from a 10 out of 10 for me.
What's that?
The mustache.
Yeah, you hate
Nosferatu has a freaking mustache.
She whispered that to me in the theater.
I was like, why does he have a mustache?
His mustache is minus points.
Brings him down.
Brings him down.
I hated it so much.
Yeah, so Skarsgård absolutely slays. Willem Dafoe absolutely slays.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe was the comic relief that you needed from that movie.
Yeah, you said Aaron Taylor Johnson, is it? Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think so. I'm plugged into horror Twitter. Everybody's shitting on Aaron Taylor Johnson being bad. And
Why?
being a bad I don't get it. I don't get it either. I think that there's a lot of people who maintain that whole edgelord thing, where
but somebody that cares about their family isn't a good person.
Where no, I'm saying they have the edgelord thing where like everybody likes something, I have to find something not to like about it, so they just chose him. They're like, oh, well, it's not a perfect movie because it's awesome. But I thought he was great.
I think it was a great piece to the story.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that we touched on is that we started the film and both of us had a smile on our face from start to finish. Yeah. It's a horror film. It's a love story. It's horrifying. It's you're just smiling. It's a period piece. It's perfect. You feel like you're sucked in. There was never a moment of boredom. It was 2 hours and 12 minutes, and I could have watched it for another hour. Yeah. I would have been invested for another hour.
I feel bad that we glossed over completely of Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, absolutely slayed. Yeah.
He did great. His character is my least favorite, but that's not saying anything bad about him. It's just saying high praises for everybody else.
Too many good characters, yeah.
So good.
It's my favorite vampire movie ever. Sets the standard. Fantastic film. 10 out of 10. Probably the best movie of the year.
I would put it around Strange Darling. Whether it's above or below, I think is your choice.
I think we put it as the best movie of the year.
Okay.
I think we close out.
I rated it a 9 out of 10. Again, no mustache, 10 out of 10.
I think that my favorite movie of the year was Strange Darling, but I think objectively the best film of the year was Nosferatu.
Do we want to change anything now that we've
I don't know, man. I think our list is fucking dope. Unless you have something you want to change. I think it's a really
It makes me very sad seeing Maxine so far down, but
it's
so bad.
We can't. There's no. I mean, I guess if we really wanted to put it above Stream, we could. I don't think it deserves C tier. It was just that bad. And I don't want to bring Stream out of C tier because
I think it was better than Stream.
Stream did so much more with so little.
I feel like Stream was just a rehashing of Terrifier, though.
Kind of, yeah. They even to the point of like the hammer kill and the dude in the arcade was like almost exactly the same as the guy in the diner in Terrifier.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I like the list.
I think our personal lists are different.
Yeah, so you've been teasing now, and we didn't talk about this part, but you want to like talk about our favorite movies of the year, like top 5?
Yeah. So it was funny. I was looking through all the movies that I rated for the year, and as I was tallying them up, I thought it was very funny. Heretic was actually my top 10 movie of the year.
Top 10?
Yeah, it was like the last one.
Damn.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think my top 5 is essentially the top 5 that's up there. Nosferatu, Strange Darling, Longlegs, Smile 2, and Oddity.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like I just said, it's the 5 that's out there. She just pretended I saw a TV Glow wasn't up there. It's so good.
I didn't like that movie.
Yeah, so I'll go with my top 5.
I don't know if it's that order.
I think you should.
I think I would put Smile 2 above Longlegs.
Okay,
so Nosferatu, Strange Darling. I don't know. I think it's hard for me to... I think Strange Darling might be more than Nosferatu. Smile 2, Oddity, Longlegs.
Okay.
Would be my top 5.
My top 5 is Terrifier 3, Strange Darling, I Saw the TV Glow, The Substance, Nosferatu.
Wow. So no Longlegs or Oddity.
No, not in my top 5. Not top 5 of the year. But they're all so close. Like that's the thing. Like
everything.
That would be my top 10.
Good.
That would be my top 10. So I think if I was gonna top 10 it, so I went Terrifier 3, Strange Darling, I Saw the TV Glow, The Substance, Nosferatu. Then I think it would be Smile 2, Oddity, Alien Romulus, In a Violent Nature, Y2K. Because Y2K was so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. W tier list. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us for the 2024 horror review. We're gonna get into a more typical schedule of talking about more recent horror movies, and the thing is, like, we have no script. We talked about this. We're gonna talk about January stuff. We're gonna talk about the new season of Squid Games this month.
Squid Game 2.
Squid Games 2, yeah.
There's no S.
Squid Games.
Squid Game 2.
Squiddy Gamers.
Squid Game 2.
What actually? Anyway, so we're gonna talk about that. We'll continue to kind of just pick and choose what we're into, and then hopefully you guys will be into it too. Look for new episodes on Fridays. Probably won't all be 2 hours like this one. We kind of had a lot to cover because we've been sitting on this for a while, but we'll get down to a more reasonable episode length. If you have movies or ideas or questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get podcasts. You can find me on twitch.tv/runningman 6 to 7 days a week. You can find me on YouTube at Runningman Plays, and you can find her nowhere because she's not online, you freak. She works a normal job. Leave her alone.
You can see me in his Twitch chat during lunch.
She hangs out on my stuff.
Jeez, Brittany's.
All right. Links are in the description. Thank you guys so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Love us forever. Say goodbye to
Bye. And they live Slashily ever after.
They did.